Hello and welcome to this Saturday. It's gorgeous weather outside, even here in Sweden. I've seen people in the US saying, "Oh, it's so sunny and stuff." And that's why I chose to sit inside and stream with you because it is 6 p.m. here. It is noon Eastern time in the US and it's 2 a.m. in Australia. But since Australia doesn't exist, okay. David can't be here today because he had prior engagements. But so I will be doing this stream so far alone. But I have sent invites to Jamie and Mo, and so maybe they will show up, one of them or both of them, or something like that. So, yeah. For you who tuned in to my channel yesterday, I was supposed to have a Finally Friday casual stream. But as some of you know, I am a union rep, I do labor law, and I specialize, among other things, in negotiations. And I've had a negotiation that should have ended Friday afternoon. And it didn't. Yay. So sadly, the yesterday's Finally Friday stream didn't happen. And today we continued with a negotiation that should have ended Friday. And we will continue tomorrow. So that's a lot of fun. But I have told them I will do a hard stop at around 4 p.m. my time tomorrow. Because I'm having a crap It's Sunday casual stream instead of Finally Friday. So we will, what I was intended to bring up yesterday, I will bring up tomorrow. So please feel free to tune in tomorrow at 10 p.m. my time, which will be 4 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time of sorts. And that would be 6 a.m. Monday morning in Australia. So everybody can tune in if they want to. Well, you're on both. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. Well, no worries. And well, welcome. You are not here to hear me complain about a negotiation that took way much longer than it needed to. I will talk about it more tomorrow. I have a principle that I won't talk about cases or negotiations unless it's more than 10 years old. So I can't talk about this specific, but I can talk about a similar event that took place a good number of years ago. And that you will hear about tomorrow. So, yeah. I am currently running both mine and David's channel, not running David's channel. And I don't know if I can check if David's Facebook is streaming now. It should do that because that's how we set it up. But I can see all the chats here on StreamYard. So, and I have the pop-up chat for both mine and David's channel. So if there are gifted memberships or memberships chats, I will see them and acknowledge them. Let's see here. I was concurrent on Jamie and David to oh, not to as soon as this trial starts, my negotiation will melt away, and snark will be there, laughs will be there, and a tiny bit of legal expertise. But I have been talking long enough. We ended up on Tuesday at 2 hours and 7 minutes with the medical examiner's testimony. I believe, let's see here, we had the good doctor on direct, and then it was lunch. And it seems like it's going to be cross-examination of the state's witness, Dr. Kevin Horn. So that would be to all you lovely ladies in the audience. Yeah, it will be a nice time, I hope. And thank you, Wendy H, for gifting 10 memberships on my channel. And it is Guthers, Heather Moser, DD, Bridget, Mike Kausi, Brad, American Steve, CS101, Bama Girl, HT so far that have been gifted. Thank you so much, Wendy. You are a great person. Thank you so much. But it's 29C. Where is it? 29 centigrade Celsius. Well, it's not here at least. Mads is just across. Not actually. Denmark is not far from me, and we have similar weather. So yeah, it's 22 centigrades, which is around 70, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a decent, good weather. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, let's just get on with it. Yes, get on with it. So we will see Dr. Kevin Horn being cross-examined by the defense. Let me know if sound is okay. That's the great lady. Oh yeah, it was great. It is great. It is so far standard, but I've heard
the record will
it
show
has
the presence of the jury,
was
defendant, and all counsel.
grotesquely
Ms. Wilmot,
crazy
you may
trial.
cross-examine.
Good afternoon, Dr. Horn.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So you're obviously the
Thank
doctor
you,
that performed the
Diamond
autopsy
Sahana.
on Mr. Alexander,
Thank you so
right?
much.
Yes,
And were you the only doctor that did that?
yes.
And present during the autopsy was Detective Flores, right?
I have, again, referring to my autopsy report, Detective Barrientos and Detective Flores were present.
And that's Detective Flores here sitting at the prosecution's table?
Yes,
Okay. And when they're present, that means they are able to watch what you're doing?
yes,
And if they had a question, they can always ask you?
yes,
And if you had, they're there to collect evidence too, right?
yes,
And if you had something or you noted something, you can certainly tell the detectives, right?
yes,
And there was no issues. I mean, he was free to ask you questions if he had any.
yes.
And here we go.
After the autopsy, he would have been free, the Detective Barrientos or Detective Flores would have been free to call you if they had follow-up questions, right?
Yes,
I mean, in other words, you don't just do this autopsy and then forget about it.
that's right.
Okay. And so, and you certainly would take Detective Flores' calls if he called you.
Yes, I would.
And in fact, at some point you did speak to Detective Flores later, didn't you?
I may have, I don't recall.
Okay. Well, he's considered what we call a case agent. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes,
And that means that he is like the point person for the investigation, right?
I believe so.
as far as the police agency, if you had needed to say anything, it would be Detective Flores or the case agent that you would say it to.
Right, or if I needed further information, I would contact that detective, yes,
Okay. And he was always open to you as far as you know, right?
as far as I know.
Okay. Now, during this autopsy, you learned that, I think you said that Mr. Alexander was 5'9".
Yes,
And
Oh.
at the time of the
I thought he
autopsy,
was
the weight
taller.
was 189.
yes,
I
And
thought
if
he
you
was
need to
bigger.
refer to your report, just let me know.
thank
You
you.
looked bigger.
The 189 pounds, I believe that would be during the autopsy. So more likely in life, he weighed more than that. Is that right?
Yes,
Do you have any type of an opinion about how much more he would typically weigh?
I would go by his driver's license or recollections of family. I don't have that information.
Okay, but we do know that at the point of an autopsy, especially when somebody's lost blood, they're going to weigh less than what they did in life.
Yes,
I want to talk to you a little bit about the gunshot wound, okay?
yes,
All right. Now, we looked at the pictures, and from the pictures, it looks as though the gunshot goes in, there's an entry. Well, you're familiar with an entry wound, what that means, right?
yes,
And an exit wound?
yes. There is no exit wound in this case.
Okay, and an exit wound is when a projectile is leaving the body.
Yes,
Okay, so there's an entry wound right above his right brow, is that right?
yes.
And just in the middle of his brow, just above it,
It's
actually.
above it, yes.
Okay, and you said there's no exit wound.
No exit wound.
So that means that during the autopsy, you recovered the projectile in his left cheek, right?
Yes,
Or correct, I should say. And it was we know that the trajectory, which is the pathway of the bullet, right? That's what
it's the direction.
The direction. So we know that the direction of the bullet, based on where it went in and where it lodged, we know that it was coming in from the left and going down.
Coming in from the right and going down and ending up on the left side.
I'm sorry, heading left.
Heading left, yes.
Okay, right. Coming in from the right-hand side, heading in the direction of left, and then lodging in the left cheek.
Yes.
Okay. And it was coming in a downward position, right?
It may have been deflected by the bone since it's passing through the skull. So its position in the cheek may not be the actual trajectory at the beginning of its path.
Okay. So, and you know, I would assume from being a doctor, I've always heard that head wounds bleed. The scalp is something that bleeds a lot. Is that true?
Yes, scalp wounds do bleed.
Okay, so a head wound, a bullet entry wound above in the scalp, just above, or not the scalp, but just above in the forehead. Is that something that's going to have a lot of blood associated with it typically?
In a living person, yes.
Okay, and so if this bullet wound is made while Mr. Alexander's living, there's going to be blood coming out of it, right?
Yes.
And it would be, of course, in the pictures, we just see a small little hole, but when it
Oh, and by the way, if you have the opportunity, share mine or David's stream on your social media to get our channels out there. That would be very much appreciated. You know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever's out there. Okay, thank you.
actually happened, if Mr. Alexander was living, there would have been quite a bit of blood coming from there.
Generally, yes. Depends on what other wounds have happened. So
Okay,
if the throat's already been cut and he's already been bleeding from that wound, then there might be considerably less blood from that wound.
okay. Assuming though that Mr. Alexander was alive at the time that the gunshot wound is done, so that the heart is still pumping. In that situation, you would agree, right, that there would be lots of blood coming from the gunshot wound?
In that abstract sense, yes.
Okay. And then the left cheek, the projectile lodging in the left cheek, that's something that would typically cause bleeding, wouldn't it?
Wherever it is along its path, it's going to cause bleeding along the path. So yes, there'd be bleeding into the cheek, there'd be bleeding into the forehead and into the skull intervening.
Okay. And in the cheek where you were able to recover the projectile, that would be something that, had Mr. Alexander been alive, the blood would be going from his cheek and probably into his mouth, wouldn't it?
I don't have any evidence that it passed through his mouth. So if it's actually going through, and when I say cheek, I mean, I do mean this bone up here, the maxilla, which is really not connected to the oral cavity except by the sinus. So I'm not saying that it went through his oral cavity.
Okay, so you're talking about it being lodged in the cheekbone?
Cheekbone or beyond the cheekbone, up here in the soft tissue above where the mouth
Anyone
is.
else got
Okay, and you
the
said that's
tune in
connected
their
to
head
the
now?
mouth through the sinus.
Right, there's a
cavity?
maxillary
Cheekbone.
sinus, right?
But
All right. So if there was bleeding associated with that, then would we expect to see blood into the sinus or through the
Hey,
nose
Mo,
and then
I
eventually into
mailed
the
you a
mouth?
link.
It's likely, yes.
All right. And you talked about the pathway. Well, let me ask you this. You talked a little bit on direct about not knowing the distance from the muzzle of the gun to Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
So when you're talking about that, you're really talking about things like stippling, right?
Stippling or soot
Soot.
that deposits on the skin, right?
Okay. Can you tell us what stippling is?
Stippling is sometimes out of the end of a firearm. If the person's close enough when they're being shot, you'll have little pieces of burning gunpowder that will come out of the end of the gun and will embed themselves in the skin. And so you'll get these little tiny dots, little stipple marks around the wound. And when we see that, we usually say that's an intermediate range of fire. And it depends on the type of firearm you're using, but it may be a couple of feet away or maybe up to a yard away, depending on what gun is used.
Okay, so when you see stippling, that tells you it's that the muzzle of the gun was probably within 2 to 3 feet away from the person?
Depending on the gun. So some can be considerably further away, some can be closer than that and leave stippling. So what you'd have to do is actually get the gun and test fire it.
Okay. Now, when you talk about stippling and it leaving marks, those are actual burn marks, aren't they?
Yes. David, this is the cross-examination. We ended on Tuesday with with the state's direct. So now it's the cross-examination. Damn it, David. And thank you to Aaron Hack for your $10 super chat. Thank you so much. Working today to catch up on what I missed this week. So it's nice to have these in my earbuds. Happy Saturday, Nick. Hi. Thank you so much. And prior to that, we had Diamonds and Henna loves Saturday streams. Thank you. And yeah, it's really, really fun to do this on Saturdays because why not? Let's continue.
There are abrasions and there may be some burn to that, but most of the time it's an abrasion and it's a piece of gunpowder that's embedding itself in the skin.
Okay, and those abrasions, they're not just going to go away if somebody were to pour water over them, right?
No, they're embedded in the skin.
So we know that Mr. Alexander's body was found in the shower and that it appeared that there was water at some point put over his body. That's not going to get rid of any stippling, right?
It may wash out some of the gunpowder fragments, but the marks, the stipple marks would still be there generally.
All right, and you're confident that you would be able to know that, right? From your experience.
Well, with decomposition, it may be less apparent, but in looking at him and looking at his face, I didn't see any stipple marks.
All right, and so based on the fact that there's no stippling marks, you can say, I know you talk about an indeterminate range of fire, right?
Yes.
And that means, what does that mean to you?
That means I couldn't determine a range of fire.
Okay.
Based on the autopsy alone.
Okay. But because there's no stippling, doesn't it also mean that we know that the gun certainly wasn't next to his forehead?
I don't think it's a contact wound. A contact wound will usually leave like a star-shaped tear, and I don't see that here. If it's not right up against the skin, if it's very close, you usually see soot and not stippling. I don't see soot. I don't see a star-shaped tear, and I don't see stippling. So that, for me, takes it out beyond the range of an intermediate. So it's either a distant range or indeterminate. An indeterminate range of fire could be that.
David, can you check if your Facebook is streaming? Because I don't see any chats from the
something like that. That
on the
can
Facebook
also
stream.
Cause you to be unable to determine a range of fire.
All right, and so you know that we're talking at least 2 to 3 feet away, if not more, because of the no stippling.
That's likely.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the wounds on the back, okay? All in all, on the back, there was 9 wounds. Is that correct?
Uh,
I'm sorry, in the upper back. Let me be more specific.
Yes, a cluster of 9 stab wounds on the upper back.
And I think that's what you called a grouping?
Yes,
And they're in between his shoulders. Is that right?
yes,
And these wounds, you'd consider very shallow. Is that right?
they are shallow, yes.
And I'm going to show you what's in evidence as 193. All right, that's 193, and that's a picture of the wounds in between the shoulders, the grouping on the back, right?
Yes,
All right, and you see that there's a center. There's these in the center, right?
yes.
This group,
Good,
and then
but
there's
I don't see
3
any.
here to
cats
his
from there.
right shoulder.
So maybe
more
they are
towards his right shoulder.
silent watcher.
Yes,
Now, the group in the center, those actually are more of a straight on direction, aren't they?
they appear to be straight, yes.
Okay.
There's about equal amount of tissue on either side.
All right, so
Thank you, Harry.
in other words,
Thank
those
you
are
so
not,
much.
the ones that are, the grouping in the center, those are not a diagonal, as far as you can tell, diagonal incoming.
Oh,
Well, I think we got off on a sidetrack on direct, that the directionality, like the
Maybe
way that they're
everybody is
oriented
joining
in a
on,
diagonal, but the track
right.
itself going into the tissue,
maybe everybody is here on YouTube, because the more people who watches our channels on YouTube, the more YouTube will promote it to others.
is pretty much straight on.
Okay, so when you talk about direction of diagonal, you're talking about that the wound
The wound
is
itself is
not
diagonal.
vertical, up and down.
Right,
And so directionality, when we talk about directionality, we're talking about where the instrument might have been coming from.
yes, in
Okay.
terms of a trajectory.
Yes, okay. So in terms of the trajectory, we're looking at the center and the back, and those look like the instrument would have been coming more of a straight on. Is that
More
right?
straight on from back to front, yes.
Okay. And the grouping on the right, we can see those look more like they are coming at a diagonal. The trajectory would be diagonal.
Right, if you look at the tissue on the side, you can see that whitish tissue in the margin, and you're seeing fatty tissue that is being sort of shaved as the knife is going in. So when I look at these 3 wounds here, it looks like the knife is actually going in from a little bit from right to left and into the back.
Okay, so from right to left. So going in from his right shoulder heading towards his middle. Is that correct?
Yes,
All right. And you already talked about these wounds being shallow.
And
When you see shallow wounds, that would
thank you, Wendy, for gifting 10 MLS Law Show memberships on David's channel, and it was gifted to Sue, Jamie Skinner, Melissa Strange, Nandi, JSDs, Auntie P, Just Jen, Paige Moody, Michelle Johnson, Ralph 707. Yeah, thank you so much. I extend the thanks from David, I hope.
typically mean that there's less force applied, right?
well, it depends on what the object is that's being penetrated. In this case, there's lots of bone underneath these. So whatever force was applied was insufficient to break through a rib or break through into the spine.
Okay, well, if you assume that the same instrument is used for all these different wounds, we know that some of these wounds are deeper
This
than others,
time
right?
he's a
Yes.
doctor.
And for example, the wound that penetrates into and perforates the vena cava, that one,
Yes,
right? The one that hits the vein that leads to the heart.
It was, yeah.
yes,
That one was much deeper, wasn't it?
yes.
Okay. And so typically, and that had to go through cartilage.
It was a female to male
Yes.
And
penetration.
so that one would require more force, wouldn't it?
More than just going through soft tissue or fat, yes.
Okay. And in these instances, the wounds on the back, those ones, you didn't see any chipping of the bone or anything like that.
No,
And you'd agree, wouldn't you, that if somebody were
I believe this is Arizona.
If somebody were standing and they were, if the two people were
Nonjabit's
standing
fitness
facing
was
each
before
other,
me here.
and the person with the knife is reaching over the back, that's going to have less
Arias.
force to it, wouldn't it, than somebody who's standing behind and being able to drive the knife right in without stop.
Generally, I'd agree with that, yes.
Okay.
Mo, come in here. I'm lonely.
All right, so the wound to the one that we were just talking about, to the vena cava. In the pictures, we saw that there's
Nashville. Nashville in the house.
it was basically in the middle of below his chest, right?
Lower right chest, yes.
Okay. And that one you said would eventually be fatal without medical attention.
Yes,
And that's due to blood loss?
yes.
That wound, you were able to tell a direction or a trajectory on that wound, right?
Yes, it's pretty much straight into the chest cavity from the right side of the chest.
Okay, doesn't it have a slightly upward trajectory?
If it is, it's very slight because the heart is right, the vena cava is right in that location where the wound is.
Western to Kentucky. Bourbon and chicken. That's what I know about Kentucky. Well, I know Australia, Denmark,
Well, doesn't it
different
have,
US states.
and I don't know.
I think
let me
we
know
have
if you need to
someone
see a
from
picture,
England
But doesn't it have
as
an
well.
undetermined lower edge so that it's going to be a slightly upper trajectory as it's going in?
Undetermined, I don't know.
Lower edge?
I don't know what you mean by undetermined lower edge.
Okay.
Undermined?
Undermined, I'm sorry.
Undermined. Yes, well, that would indicate that the blade is angled slightly upward as it's going into the skin. So if you see more tissue on the lower part than the upper part, then that's consistent with that. But we also have to keep in mind that this is a decomposed person. So the characters of the wounds can change a bit.
Okay, but based on what you saw, you would say that based on what you were just talking about, the undermined edge,
Undermining.
based on that, you can tell us that more than likely it was going in an upper trajectory, right?
Generally, that's true, yes.
Okay, and that means it's going from down to up.
Yes,
When we
as
talk
the
about
tip of the wound, as the tip of the weapon is going into the body, it has a
Central
slightly upward
Texas.
trend to it. Yes.
Oh, I love
And
Texas.
that
I need
can
to
happen
get
when
back
somebody is
there
taller than the person
as soon
who
as
has
possible.
the knife, right? You have to reach up.
In a general way, yes, that's true.
Okay.
Missouri. I don't even
And
know
you said
where
that
that
one,
is in the United States because I'm Swedish. I'm good at geography, but not that good.
But that one is mostly straight in as far as in other words, it's not diagonal.
Honestly,
coming from
Matt,
the right or the left.
I'm not sure.
Is that correct?
The vena cava is slightly on the right side of the body, the right side of the chest, so it's right underneath where the stab wound goes in. So it's essentially straight in and maybe with a slightly upward trajectory.
Okay.
Missouri, yeah. And Minnesota. Or Minnesota. I don't know. Scotland. Soda and popcorn.
Judge, may I approach? Yes.
And Central Arkansas. Or as we pronounce it in Swedish, Arkansas.
You haven't seen that photo prior to today, is that right?
No, I haven't.
Okay. In that photo, can you see a person's head
Colorado.
I think so.
and a shoulder?
I know where that is.
Yes.
And what appears to be an
because of,
arm?
Peter Forsberg played
Yes.
for the
And then at
Colorado
the
Avalanche.
very back portion of the picture, and you can tell it's a distance because it's small, is a foot, right?
Could be a foot.
All
Wisconsin.
right. I'm going to ask you to assume that that picture is of Mr. Alexander, okay?
Okay.
And Judge, I was going to ask to publish to the jury for demonstrative purposes.
And the exhibit number for the record.
Minnesota.
92? What,
162.
160.
And Judge, I would move it into evidence.
And Maryland.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
162 is admitted and you may publish.
Maine, the lobster central of the world.
Okay, so what we were talking about is here you can
Oh,
see what
this
appears to be a
is
head, right?
Sweden, sunny.
Yes.
All right, and this appears to be an arm.
I think
Okay,
so, yes,
autopsy
Okay, and then
photos.
this would be somebody's shoulder.
yes,
And then the very distant part of the picture, you can see what appears to be a foot.
yes.
So in this picture, it would appear to be
Yeah. We will have autopsy photos
somebody
on the
lying down
stream.
almost
So
on the
if
floor,
you're
right? It appears that the
not in
person
for
is
it,
lying
I
down.
think if this is tile here, yes, that would be.
I don't know
laying on
when
the
they
tile.
show up,
Okay. Um,
so I can't give a
And
heads
you
up
can
warning other
see
than
what
it's
would
going
appear
to be
blood, right?
autopsy photos.
Yes,
Something that's dripping over his shoulder.
yes,
And that would be
Netherlands.
the person's
Yay.
right shoulder, wouldn't it?
yes.
So reindeer, North Pole. Yeah.
And also in this picture, the arm is up, isn't it?
It looks like it's flexed up, yes,
Okay, so in other words, it's not just laying limp on the floor, right?
right.
Okay. And the head is also up, right?
Yes, except that I don't know what this blue object is, if it's something that the head's resting against or what this is in the foreground.
Does this appear to be like a foot and then a pant leg?
Could be.
Okay. But from what you can tell from the shoulder is definitely off the ground, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay. And assume for a second if this is Mr. Alexander, once the wound to the neck
Assume it's
occurs,
Mr. Alexander.
having his head up and his arm up,
If not him,
certainly his
who?
head up, that would be near impossible, wouldn't it?
Well, like I said, he's going to have a few seconds of consciousness, and it's certainly enough if he's laying on the ground to raise an arm or raise a head, that wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility.
But unlikely, isn't it?
I wouldn't say that, no. I wouldn't think he'd be getting up and walking around, but picking your head up or moving your arm is not impossible.
Okay. And you can see the blood coming over the shoulder, right?
Yes.
And if there was a neck wound at this point, wouldn't you expect to see quite a bit more blood than that?
I don't see what's underneath him. That seems to be a lot of blood to me, but I have no way of quantifying or telling how much is here,
Okay.
just based on this photo.
Okay. But we do know that the blood is on the right-hand side, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and we can tell that, at least
Not
from the
the slaughter
picture,
pool.
it looks like the blood is dripping down the back. There's
Both
in other
the
words, it's like a
murder,
drip,
murder,
isn't it?
and taking pictures.
Right. There's a
Of it.
large area of blood going back, and there's some dripping on either side of that large area of blood.
Okay. And we do know for sure that the gunshot wound was to his right side, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure what
I want
she's
to talk to you a
going
little bit
with
more
these
about the
questions.
gunshot wound. Let's see.
She more or less is just repeating.
And we know
The
with the
states.
gunshot wound, obviously you discuss it
Questions.
in your examination report, right?
Yes.
And you talk about the track of the bullet begins in the frontal skull, is that right?
Yes.
And when you refer to the frontal skull, you're referring to a bone.
Yes. The frontal bone of the
Okay.
skull.
And we know that it ends in the facial skeleton near the left cheek.
Yes.
And again, as you told me earlier, the facial skeleton, you're referring to a bone.
Right. The maxillary bone.
All right. Now in your report, and let me just ask you, you did this report, actually you did the autopsy on June 12th of 2008, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So on June 12th of 2008, after doing your report, you found that there was no evidence, no gross evidence of significant intracranial hemorrhage. Is that right? And I'm looking on
Yes.
page 4.
Yes. Page 4 of my report.
Okay. And when you talk about significant intracranial hemorrhage, you're talking about bleeding through the brain. Is that right?
Right. And at this point, the brain is really non-existent. It's almost, you can't examine it. It's become liquid.
You can't examine it at all?
It's very difficult.
Okay, well, but didn't you actually take slices of the brain? And I'm referring to page 7.
Yes. So it is softened. It's not liquefied.
Okay.
It is still present, but it's soft.
All right, so you were able, it's still there, right?
Yes, it's always there. It's just the state that it's in.
Okay, so the state that it was in, though, is that you were able to actually take what's called multiple serial sections of autolyzed brain.
Right. So the autolysis or autolyzed, that's a term that refers to the liquefied brain tissue or very softened brain tissue.
Okay, and when you talk about multiple serial sections, does that mean that you're taking slices of the brain?
I have no
As
clue.
best I can, I'm running a knife through the brain and trying to examine it. But
Okay.
that may be actual sections or may just be in terms of trying to inspect the internal parts of that tissue, whatever's there.
Okay, but according to your report, that's what you did, right?
Right.
And in there, so in this part of your report, after going through these sections, again, you say it does not reveal the presence of grossly apparent trauma. Is that right?
Right.
So by taking through these sections, again, you don't find any evidence of trauma or like a bullet track through the brain.
Nothing so clearly defined. No hemorrhage, no foreign bodies, no metal fragments. Right.
Okay.
The reasons for him to date this stabby girl, maybe? I don't know.
And we know that people who have had injuries to their brains, depending on the section of the brain, they're not always incapacitated. Isn't that true?
For the most part, if you have a bullet pass through the brain, you're not going to be standing, you're not going to be functional, you're going to fall. And like I said earlier in direct, it may not be immediately fatal. In fact, it likely wasn't passing through the frontal part of the brain, especially. It's not as vital. I mean, they're all vital structures, but it's not as vital as the brain stem or the back parts of the brain.
Well, just so we're clear, you don't actually have any medical evidence of it passing through the brain, right?
It had to have passed through the brain.
You don't have any medical evidence of that, do you?
I do. The skull is perforated where the brain is, so it had to have passed through the brain. The brain is there.
But you have no idea, you have no medical evidence of how far or what part of the brain it exactly would have hit, right?
It would have passed through the right frontal lobe.
Uh-huh.
I just don't have any evidence of hemorrhage now because of decomposition. But it had to have passed through the brain because of the part of the skull that was injured. The brain in a young person especially is flush against that structure. The brain occupies the entire skull. So to have a hole in the skull here and an exit in here, it has to pass through the brain.
Well, the exit's there's no exit. What do you
Exit from the skull cavity into the face.
Uh-huh. So, but what you're saying though is you have no idea where that bullet might have hit. It could have just grazed the tip of the brain, right?
No, it had to have passed through the right frontal lobe of the brain based on where these holes in the skull are.
And
There's no way it could have avoided the brain.
Okay, and you're sure of that?
Yes.
What I was talking about earlier.
That reminds me of the joke. You performed the autopsy? Yeah. How did you know he was dead? Well, his head was right next to me. Well, couldn't he have been alive anyway? Well, of course, he could have been alive and practicing law. I mean, it's not that hard. If bullet there and then somewhere here it got lodged, it has to have gone through the frontal lobe. Shouldn't be that difficult, because just because the brain is partially dissolved and shrunk up and everything to the point where you can't actually see the trace doesn't mean yeah. But still, She's trying. She doesn't have a lot to work with.
Was that with brain injuries? I mean, we've all heard the stories of people, the person who had the arrow stuck through, went through his skull and hit his brain, or the person who had I don't know if it was an arrow or what, but actually goes through the brain, and these people are coming to the ER.
No,
We've heard those
nobody
stories, right?
considered
Those are
being
different.
a teleporting
But those are
bullet.
people who've had brain injuries, right?
Not with projectiles.
Okay.
With firearms, you don't just have an arrow or an object passing through the head. With a firearm, you also have gas and you have an expansile cavity that damages the brain as it goes through. So you can shoot an arrow through the brain. It's a much lower velocity projectile and will not cause a large temporary cavity to open up in the brain tissue like a projectile would, like a firearm.
Thank you so much, Glenda.
So those don't
Much
cause as much
appreciated.
damage as a bullet does, is what
That's
you're
right.
saying.
That's right.
But you didn't see any damage, even in
could-
your slices, right?
Right. I could not document the damage because of the decomposition.
Now, your findings during the autopsy, that would be something that you would explain to Detective Flores, right?
Preliminarily, yes.
Okay. And he's going to get a copy of it?
A copy of my final report,
Yes.
yes.
All right. And like you said before, he's free to call you with questions if he doesn't know what you mean by something.
Yes.
And do you remember speaking to Detective Flores about close to a year later after the autopsy?
No,
Do you remember speaking to Detective Flores ever again?
no,
Do you think you didn't? Or do you just not remember?
I don't recall, no.
Do you have any memory of ever speaking to Detective Flores about this particular autopsy after June 12th?
No.
So then any information that Detective Flores would have gotten from you would have been from June 12th of 2000.
Here's the thing. She has virtually nothing to go on. The evidence here seems to be so catastrophically overwhelming. So she is grasping for the few straws she can grasp for. But yeah, as Soda Popcorn said, throw things at witness and see what will stick.
2008, is that right?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, you spoke to him on June 12th, right?
I assume so. He's listed as present on my report, but I don't remember him being there.
Okay. And you said you've done 6,000 or so autopsies?
Something like that.
All right. And when police are involved, police have been present during your autopsies, right?
Yes,
Okay. So it makes it difficult. I'm sure they run together, do they not?
yes.
Thank you, Sue. Much appreciated.
But you know in your report that Detective Flores was there. You know that from because it was documented.
Just, yes, the documentation.
All right. And so the information about, let's talk about the gunshot wound first. So any information that Detective Flores had about the gunshot wound, I guess then would have come from June 12th, right? If you don't remember ever talking to him again.
Objection, speculation is for Detective Flores. We have to take this information.
Overruled, you may answer.
Sorry, can you ask it again?
You're the only doctor who did this autopsy, right?
Correct.
And so any information that Detective Flores has about the autopsy itself would have come from you, right?
Objection, speculation.
Staying.
Any information would have come from the autopsy that you did.
Objection, speculation, and as to what information she's talking about.
Sustained.
You provided your report to Detective.
Rule number 1, don't piss off the judge. That's the one rule you need to remember. And that's not a happy judge. You don't want to have a judge go, yeah, you need to conclude this, lady.
Detective Flores, right?
Not myself personally, but my office would have mailed it to him.
Yes, it goes to the police department, doesn't it?
Yes.
Hello, Jodie. My first and best mod. Hey.
Isn't it true
Or the Jodie,
that
yeah.
at some point you told Detective Flores that you believed the first wound was the shot to the head?
I don't recall ever saying that.
So you think you never told Detective Flores that?
I don't think that's consistent with the evidence that I have, and I don't remember ever saying anything like that.
Okay, so what your testimony is, I just want to be clear, is that you never told Detective Flores that the gunshot wound was the first wound.
I don't believe I ever said that, no.
And do you remember telling Detective Flores that you knew this because the gunshot wound wouldn't have completely incapacitated somebody?
I don't recall saying that either.
Is that something that you think you would have never said to Detective Flores?
I think I've said it here in court that I don't think it would immediately incapacitate him or kill him, but it would be a serious injury. But I don't recall telling Detective Flores that, no.
Okay, so let me back up for a second. So you're saying that the gunshot wound is not immediately incapacitating?
I would say not immediately fatal.
Okay,
But I
I'm not
think-
talking about fatal, I'm just talking about incapacitating.
I think, yes, I think that it would be incapacitating. It's passing through his brain, so yes.
Okay, so, and that's assuming it passed through his brain. You would say it's incapacitating, right?
I'm saying it did pass through his brain.
All right, and so then you wouldn't have told Detective Flores that that particular gunshot wound would not have completely incapacitated someone, right? I guess you wouldn't have said that.
I don't recall having a conversation with the detective at all about anything.
I'm sorry, I missed the last
I don't recall having a conversation with the detective at all about this case.
one. Okay. So do you remember then telling Detective Flores that Mr. Alexander could have been unconscious, but then you suspect that he became conscious again?
No, I don't recall saying that.
Okay, and you suspect that he became conscious, or that you knew he was conscious because there's defensive wounds?
Well, I think you'd have to be conscious during the defensive wounds. I don't recall telling Detective Flores that.
Okay. But if the gunshot wound comes first, and then the defensive wounds come after that, obviously he would have to be conscious for that.
I don't think that makes sense. I don't think he got the gunshot wound and then got defensive wounds. I think he would have been unconscious.
Okay, so that's something you never told Detective Flores?
Again, I don't recall ever having a conversation with him about anything.
She better have a transcript of Detective Flores saying these things, because if she doesn't, she's screwed.
So if you don't recall ever having a conversation with Detective Flores, and we know that Detective Flores was at the autopsy, right?
Right.
So then can we assume then that you never spoke to him again?
That was 10 years ago. I don't remember.
It wasn't 10 years ago, it was in 2008.
2, 6.
4.5.
Several years ago.
Okay,
I
so you don't remember.
recall speaking to him again, no.
So then it's possible that you spoke to Detective Flores.
Sure.
Okay. And it's then possible that you might have said these things to Detective Flores.
I don't believe I would say those things, no. I don't think they're consistent with what I'm saying here.
Okay. And so
If she doesn't have papers for this speculation, yeah, not a good thing, in my opinion.
I guess the one thing we can agree on is that the wound to the neck, that one was most certainly fatal the quickest, right?
Yes, that's the most significant wound in my opinion, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Just wait a minute.
Or they are just trying to make the defense bury themselves. Oh, you would be surprised how many ways you can ask the same question if you're really fishing for a specific answer. little pill. There's multiple time zones here. I'm in one that sits between Hayden and Jeff. So you're the meat in between the bread. Or
Do you remember giving your opinion to Detective Flores that the cut to the throat was the last wound?
No.
And so if Detective Flores would have testified in some other hearing that that's what you told him, he's wrong?
Objection, vouching speculation.
Sustained.
And
hey, Marvel Studios. Welcome. Oh, you haven't seen? Oh.
He's not an idiot. He's just Swedish.
That is a legal layman. I visited his stream a couple of weeks back, and it was an interesting argument in his chat when I said Sweden doesn't have the Second Amendment. And apparently that was very offensive to another person who then called me an idiot. In which legal layman said,
He's not an idiot. He's just Swedish.
That was a fun stream. Legal Layman is his channel, by the way. Oh, I'm having way too much fun on the YouTubies. Yeah, he has interesting.
I take it you have no memory of discussing the scene photographs with Detective Flores?
I don't, no.
And in discussing the scene photographs with Detective Flores, telling Detective Flores that the gunshot wound would not have completely incapacitated Mr. Alexander?
Again, I've been answering this question. I do not have any recollection of that. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Was that all?
Redirect.
Now that was a riveting cross-examination that led absolutely nowhere. But she might set up things for later for Detective Flores when he probably will take the stand. And yeah. Well, some are, but some aren't. Labor laws are somewhat similar, but UK has less protection than Swedish labor laws. But I can't speak towards criminal law and stuff like that. Most of European Union countries, or as in UK, as a former European, they still go under the EU Charter of Human Rights, Chapter 5, that regulates your rights when it comes to legal matters. So with different variations. No country is exactly the same. But let's see if this is a redirect here.
Sir, in terms of the sequencing of the wounds, do you remember having an interview with this individual sitting here with the glasses? Do you remember having an interview with him?
Vaguely. I do remember the defense interview.
You were interviewed with regard to this case, right?
Yes,
And you have a copy of that interview, don't you?
I do.
And you were asked about the sequencing of these injuries, weren't you?
Yes.
Sustained.
All right. Did you talk to them about the sequencing of the injuries?
Yes.
And at any time, did you stop the interview and say, no, I don't want to talk to you about the sequencing of the injuries?
No.
And were you asked about the sequencing
That
of the
would be
injuries?
when the age
Yes.
you gifted
And what did you tell
membership.
them during that interview that you had with them?
I felt that the gunshot wound may have been last, but at any event, the gunshot wounds and the wounds to the neck would have had to have come after the defensive wounds of the hands.
And is that what you told us today?
Yes.
I don't
Counselor,
know.
with regard to
I don't think so.
the procedure or the process that takes place when a body is brought in terms of when you conduct the examination, who is in the room with you?
Forensic technicians, photographers, sometimes medical students.
Do you take the photographs?
No.
In terms of the individuals from law enforcement, you indicated that they're there via your report, right?
Yes, they're in an observation area.
But in terms of the examination room itself, is the detective there looking over your shoulder and questioning you as you conduct this examination? Is that how it's done out there?
No.
Where are they, physically speaking, the detective, when this examination is going on?
They're in an observation
Thank you,
bay
Glenda,
separated
but
by glass.
that was
And
just
if they
fun.
want to talk to you
I don't really care
during
if
this
people
particular
call me an
process,
idiot.
how does that
because
work? In
I
other words,
know
if they
you
want to
love me.
provide you advice as to whether or not an injury went through the brain or not, how is it that they provide this advice to you?
They don't generally.
But if they do want to talk to you,
Ladies and gentlemen, directly from Walmart.
As per usual. Oh, for the love of all that is holy. The
So
things
what
you will
did you
see.
think of? Yeah, what did you think of the cross-examination?
Well, it sounded like she didn't super duper kill him. And I wore pigtails just for Jodie.
Aw,
But, well, yeah, I mean, she's like, but did she really like super kill him? I mean, but like he still had brain matter. I
What?
like if I were the lawyer, I think I'd go as far away from okay, but they were like shallow little stabby bits. I mean, they weren't like she didn't really, stab. Have you seen Joel Guy Jr.? Okay.
Mm.
She didn't put his head in a
Mm.
pot or anything.
Maybe he tried to self-end and then she just helped him along with stabby, 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 stabby. Oh.
He was like, I no longer want to live without you. And she was like, I agree. You do no longer want to live without me.
I can't live when living
Oh,
is
no.
no,
Because
no.
the Scott Peterson trial started with the ice castles, one moment in time. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, have we been to? No, we haven't been 2 hours. I mean, oh, for darn sake.
I'm having slight issues with my Wi-Fi.
So is my husband, but it's the
Yeah.
the wife.
No,
not the
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
no, not that kind of. I don't have a wife, but I have issues with my Wi-Fi because I see here connection unstable. So apparently I don't have enough horses. It's unstable. Oh, God, no.
I
Yeah.
I understand. Believe me. Oh, what did I do here? I have no idea. My husband's trying to get the printer to work because we are writing a whole lot of things off that I'm buying.
Yeah, that's the good thing about having a when you get to monetization. I don't know the rules of LLCs in the United States, but in Sweden you can go back almost a full calendar year to write stuff off that you buy for the channel. So and that's where members come in because so I can plan ahead and get
Yeah.
stuff to improve the channel and stuff like that, like this refurbished computer I got and this headset I got, and I will. Oh, and hey, I received my share, my new office share, but I haven't put it
cool.
together. Yeah, I haven't put it together yet, so I will. attempt to film myself avoiding to kill myself putting it together, and then tomorrow at my oh crap it's Sunday stream I might show it, unless I hurt myself really bad. Well,
and Mads, I learned on Sweden Day that I am not yet at Swedish lawyer level. I am at teetotaler and then wow level.
I can. Oh wow.
I mean, I don't know. It sounds legally to me, but as the
Should
founder
I live
of
stream my share assembly? But I don't have any room for it, and I only have my phone to walk around and film stuff. I'm not sure how that will work with StreamYard. I have no clue. I'm not good. Yeah.
my husband, so in the odd things kind of way, my husband's last position was with like photojournalism. So he has an old soldier that is going to hand over hand Helen Keller teach me how to do stuff and or do it himself. Let's be very honest.
Jamie, I sent you a link on Discord. Jamie's here.
Yay!
Yeah, so if she chooses, she can come on too. So then we have 3 adult kids with no supervision.
Oh Lord, help us. Jamie will have to be promoted to adult.
Yeah. Jamie, you will be our designated adult. Oh, there are limits to write-offs. A Danish stripper wanted to write off her implants. For some reason, they denied it. Something about private use too. Oh, yeah. But we are here for the Jodie Arias trial, so that was a nice break. So, but let's continue. It's half an hour left of this, and then we
How
might.
does it happen?
Then we might get a start on day 4, maybe.
Ooh.
They have a handset they can pick up, and I can hear them in the autopsy area. And then I will come to the door or the window, and I'll talk to them.
And as you're conducting this examination,
Like the
is it
scene
your
in
practice to
Aliens?
immediately form an opinion as to which injury is first, which is second, and which is third?
Or
If
no,
there's 3 of
it's
them,
Independence Day where the
why
doctor.
would you not immediately tell them, oh, I know this one's the first one, this one's the second one, this is the third one? Why wouldn't you do it that way?
Often we can never establish that, but I do want to have an opportunity to look at the whole case, get investigative reports back, get toxicology, histology, and then come to a final report.
And this report that you prepare, when is it due? In other words, how long does it take you to prepare this report with your impressions?
Varies, minimum of a month, maximum of 4 to 5 months, depending.
In this case, I think you conducted the autopsy, June 16th, I think?
June 12th.
June 12th? And what date is your report dated?
July 15th.
And how many, so that's roughly what, a month later?
5 weeks. So, yeah.
And how many pages is your report?
8 pages.
And in that report, is there any place that indicates that the gunshot wound or which injury was first or last? Anywhere does it indicate that?
No.
In terms of you being asked about the sequence of events, in terms of these fatal injuries, when, according to your records, was the first time that you were asked about the sequencing of events?
According to my recollection, it would have been at the defense interview.
And before that, didn't write it in your report, right?
That's right.
And is it your practice to write the sequencing of events in your report?
No.
Why not?
It would be speculative. And I am simply providing information about the injuries that I see.
And then once you've had a chance to have all this information before you, that's when you make your determination, right?
Yes.
You were asked about this photograph here, which is exhibit number 162. Let me have it marked since it is evidence.
Wine Mom is super angry looking today. She got
Yeah.
those highlights taken out.
One of the things that
She's going to
we're
become
able to see
like she's
is
going to show up in pigtails by the end and just have
there's a
become
date and time
Jodie.
associated with that, correct?
Yes,
What is the date, if you can see it, and time?
June 4th, 2008, 5:32 in the evening,
16 seconds, right?
16 seconds.
And it does show a head, right?
Yes,
Which one?
And you were asked over and over or not whether this was a foot. Do you remember that?
yes,
If that were a human being's foot, would you have any problem saying that perhaps this human being had another foot if they were a normal human being?
no,
And would you have any problem
That's
saying that this
racist.
individual, if he had 2 feet, would also have 2 arms?
yes,
Well, you would know that they would, right?
yes.
Do you know whether or not the right arm, the left arm, do you know what that right or left arm is doing?
No,
Do you know whether or not that right arm or left arm is holding what you
What
said
is
they said
the
was
left
right
arm clutching?
Whether or not that's
Um,
holding up that arm?
that's certainly possible.
And
We
you don't
need
know
an
what, for
adult.
example, the left arm is doing, do you?
That's correct.
And this part up here, I know that this is straining a little bit of credibility, and I don't know medical science, but that's the top of the head, right? And
Yes,
if I'm wrong, tell me that. Right?
Swear to
Yes.
God, it's like
And
one
this
of those
part right
things
here
in the
is the neck,
90s where you
right?
would stare
Yes.
at it
You
and
see
see
any
a
blood
sailboat.
coming down this from the top of the head?
it's very dark. I can't say for sure whether.
But can you see any blood coming from the neck area there?
Yes,
And if you see the blood coming from the neck area and you know the injuries, and assuming this is Travis Alexander, what would you associate that blood with?
they cut to the throat.
And with regard to the injury to the chest area, if his head is up in that
Humor is
position,
getting
his arm is being
dark
up in
today.
that position, and knowing what you know about gravity, would you think that this blood
This
was
is
coming
why I
from
love you
the injury
guys.
to his chest or the neck area?
Neck area.
It's the most gruesome murder and autopsy photos, and we're making jokes. That's a coping
I'll-
mechanism.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you were asked about was the wounds to the back.
And
Do you
the
remember
chat
being
is
asked about
talking
that?
about tax
And
write-offs.
This question
Because why not?
may or may not be your area. but,
Hey, you know,
with regard to
half the time
human
we're
beings,
talking about,
are
oh, did you
men's
do
arms
something this,
longer than women's or not? I don't know.
Jody?
Generally, yes.
And with regard to a person's body,
I
generally
can't,
speaking,
I can't.
is a
I'm
man's
gonna
body,
show it.
upper chest, is that bigger or smaller?
I want to remind
woman's
everyone to stand up
upper-
straight,
bigger.
sit up straight,
And
unless you want to
you were
hump like
asked about
discount
the injuries
Henry
that were
Winkler.
to the back. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And you were asked, well, is it possible that somebody
Fedorevsky is
could
here.
come
Hey,
around
Fedorevsky.
and with those,
Hello.
with those, given what those injuries are there, that they would have come around and done this and done the injuries back there? Do you remember being asked that?
yes,
And you said, well, it's possible, right?
yes,
With regard to that particular scenario, is it also possible that an individual could be hunched over and somebody came up behind him and started inflicting those kinds of injuries? Are they consistent with that?
yes,
And with regard to the injury to the chest, you said, well, it's slightly upward. Do you remember saying that?
yes,
Is it possible that with regard to that injury, it could have come up like this? Was that possible?
yes.
Is there any impediment or anything in the way to doing something like that?
The court reporter is like,
Do we have to wrap arms
get
around
one more
somebody
step
to
close to me.
get that injury, or
We need a bailiff tackle.
It can be from the front or
desperately.
back. Yes.
what is it
I was about to say,
consistent?
if I'm the
That
court
injury, if
reporter,
somebody's
I'm putting
sitting
my
down,
arm up and I'm like,
Male, Mr. Alexander, is it consistent?
I
if you sit
distinctly
down and
remember
somebody is standing
most
and you come up
in
and do
law
that?
tube
Is
saying,
that consistent with that?
don't walk into the area. But I'm seeing
Yeah.
lots of trials where lawyers just go into the area. And I'm so disappointed because I still haven't seen a proper bailiff tackle.
Did the gunshot wound go to the front, go through
Ah.
the frontal lobe or not?
thank you.
It did.
Yes, my
If
big
it goes
fear,
through the frontal lobe,
I have
what
weird
does the human
vanities. I
body
just don't
do
want to
when a
hump.
gunshot goes through the frontal lobe?
Well, there's
as
a
I
shock
grow up.
delivered to the entire brain as a projectile is
Tomorrow
passing
I
through
will
it.
tell
So it's
you
not just
a
like an
story
arrow or a
about
nail. You've also got expanding
man with a hump
gases. You've got a
and a
tumbling
man with a
projectile.
club
So
foot,
generally, you're going to have it's a shock
which
situation,
may or may
neurologic
not
shock,
get
and
me
you can be quite
demonetized.
incapacitated.
You are not allowed to make fun of the English royal family, I don't believe.
Oh, oh.
And that gunshot wound that we're talking about. Did it go
See,
through the
Swept, you
mouth
know I
or
don't
not?
do that. I only have 6
It goes
children.
above the mouth. It's in the sinus structures. So bleeding out of the mouth is certainly possible.
And it ended up in the left cheek, correct?
Cheek, yes.
The distance of the gunshot wound, you said it was indeterminate, right?
Yes.
And that's based on the fact that you don't see any stippling there, right?
That's right.
And indeterminate to you in this
No,
case,
I think
what's
so,
the-
but they
it's
may
indeterminate,
also
I
be
know, I know
royal.
what the word means, but
Yeah,
how far, can you give us any parameters whatsoever as to how far or how close the gunshot was?
Again, I'm not a ballistics expert, but generally speaking, for
Thank you,
most
sir.
firearms, it's
be
going
sure
to be
it's
a
televised.
minimum distance of a couple of feet, at least.
And this gunshot wound, was there hemorrhaging that was associated with it? On the
So now
path
he's
that it's
gone mustard shirt.
In the scalp and in the cheek area, there is some hemorrhage. There is no hemorrhage detected in the skull itself.
The
And what does
large
that mean to
lawyer
you
never
in
picks
terms of the
flattering
sequencing?
looks.
Whether or not the person was
There was
alive
a
or not
sale
alive. if there's
on the
no blood.
local
If there's
shop
less blood, it may
with
mean that the
matching
other
tie
injuries
and
preceded
shirt.
that, and there was just less bleeding because there was less blood to come out of the body.
Could this person have been dead at the time that the gunshot wound was inflicted?
That's possible, yes.
And in terms of what an
Why are we
individual may
figuring
have
out,
said
like,
or didn't say, you did indicate that
stabbed,
your reports
bludgeoned,
indicate that
shot? I mean,
Detective
I'm just going to throw out there that
Flores
maybe he was
at the
unalive.
autopsy, right?
Yes.
Does it have an MD after his name? Maybe I missed that.
No.
Oh, for the love of...
So in terms
Is
of
he a doctor?
this individual, Detective Flores, what he may or may have said, you have any idea where he gained his knowledge?
I don't know.
But your knowledge is based on what you saw, what, at the autopsy, your schooling, and anything else that was provided to you, right?
Yes.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Does any member have a question for this witness?
That's not actually matching. It's a cantaloupe and lemon. It's a
That's
very strange combination. His wife is not wifing at home.
I mean, I have a body type that strongly resembles Jeremy Clarkson's, and I sit up straight. I don't. I mean,
Well, I mean, he kind of looks like he's lost the will. He looks like the lawyers in the Letitia Stalk trial. Like, oh my God, I don't want to be. Have you seen this crazy? You know.
yeah. And apparently, that's the guy who later on wrote the book about Jodie Arias and got himself disbarred. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't think it's kosher that you get to, like, I mean, look, as a member and founding member and coiner of LayTube, loosely adjacent to LawTube, but we don't have a law license. It is, I would believe it would be unkosher to make, a tell-all book about your client.
No, it's that attorney-client privilege gets a bit in the way. My guess, he thought he would make millions. He didn't, and got disbarred. So now, yeah.
We have to do a what's he doing now? We have to search. All right, our chat investigators, we have to do a where is he now?
I don't even know the guy's name, so I have no idea.
I've been calling him Lunchbox too, but that's probably very mean.
Oh.
Because Kraus from the Rittenhouse was Nick called him, I think, Lunchbox.
Now that's more like a sack of potato with a jacket.
You know, I will say Kraus sort of, I mean, he always stood up straight. He looks like a human beanbag. It's kind of oddly mesmerizing and horrifying at the same time.
Mm. And his shirt and tie are slightly mismatched. So maybe
That's
he
what I'm saying.
bought
It's like
2 pair
cantaloupe and
of
a
yellow
lemon.
shirt tie, and then he just miss.
Yeah, just I can only imagine the absolute itch fest that his wife did. Like, so you got yourself disbarred for this stupid A book that I had to listen to you, type for 5 minutes. What are you gonna do now, sir?
Yeah, but I stopped here just because I like this with jury questions. I really like that principle. I wished it was standard everywhere.
I
No,
did ask an appellate friend of mine. It is standard practice now in Indiana. I mean, they're
Oh.
phasing it in.
Hmm?
So, should I get called for jury duty?
Oh.
And they ask,
Oh,
"What do you
God,
do? What do you do
please
for a living?"
call Mo for jury duty. Oh, I would stream the living frick out of that that trial
And then
just
Court
for
TV
the
would
jury
show my feet.
Oh.
No, I'd be the one person in there, like, as soon as we got back to the thing and we could go into deliberation, "You guys know that thing where we have to follow the law is total BS. We can nullify the shit out of this, unless it's a total turd bag."
Mm. Mm.
Oh, Mo, I need my own court, like a Judge Judy. I need a
Mm.
a Mo in
Yeah,
in robes.
yeah. It's jury duty.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
So,
ah.
y'all, I had 13 pages of notes just for day 1 in the Scott Peterson trial
Mm.
because I take a lot of notes. So, my husband got or ordered me this magical thing that you talk into it and it types.
Okay.
So I can get all
You're
my notes
talking
done.
to a secretary?
I wish. No, it's called Dragonfire, I think, but basically you simply talk into it and you can kind of control your computer. I think it's for people like me that talk more than they
I could
type.
never have one of those because my Swedish accent is not the standard Swedish accent. It's well, maybe not all of you know, but I grew up in a place that closely resembles Appalachian hillbilly kind of place. So yeah, that transcript would be very, very odd.
They've actually got nuance one now, so it kind of goes with your cadence. I don't know. Mr. Mo sent me the link and told me to buy it.
Okay. Well, we have 20 minutes left of the day 3. Let's see what.
I see no hands.
No.
May step down. State may call its next witness.
The state calls Elizabeth Burkett.
So may we approach before we do that?
You may.
I could have stopped 10 seconds later.
I like how she pretends to look sad. I mean, she at least, sticks with it.
Yeah. Let's see who the next witness is. Just fast forward a bit. That's the family of the very ex-boyfriend of that one.
I do love the middle one's commitment. She has what I call a resting me face. So I do like her commitment to just staring dagger eyes at Jodie the entire time.
Was a long deliberation. Oh, soon. There she is, coming directly from a funeral.
Or a Men in Black convention.
Yeah.
Can you spell your last name for me? Northcutt.
What?
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be
That
the
is
truth,
a-
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Did
I like
anyone
the
catch
color.
that?
Just walk around and have a seat.
No, I was thinking I liked the color of the red-haired lady's hair, but not the style. Because I'm weird.
May I have your name
Elizabeth A. Northcutt,
and who you work for?
the City of Mesa Police Department Forensic Services Section.
What do you do for them?
I'm a
Northcutt.
forensic firearms examiner.
And as a firearms examiner, what are your day-to-day duties?
I do firearms examinations, cartridge case and bullet examinations, distance determinations, serial number restorations, respond to crime scenes for documentation.
The microphone's a little bit far away, if you don't mind. It's the one in
Okay.
front of you.
Females, if you raise the pitch of your voice up after every sentence, it
How
always
long
sounds
have
like you are
been,
perpetually asking a
employed
question.
involving this particular area?
In firearms,
Yes.
8 years.
And in this, involving the investigation or the murder of Travis Alexander, did you have occasion to take a look at a cartridge casing?
Yes, I did.
What is a cartridge casing?
A cartridge
Oh,
casing
no,
is a
too
container that
much.
holds powder, a primer, and a bullet in a cartridge, which is a basic unit of ammunition.
I
You
would
said
get
that it holds a bullet. Does the
librarian.
casing always have to hold a bullet or not?
No, it doesn't.
What if a bullet is fired? What happens to the casing?
Then it's a fire cartridge case.
With regard to the casing, if it is fired from a semi-automatic handgun, what happens to the casing after the bullet is fired?
It is extracted and ejected.
What is a semi-automatic handgun and why is the casing extracted and ejected?
The semi-automatic handgun is a handgun that extracts and ejects fire cartridge cases. When the cartridge case is fired, the firing pin hits the primer, which is in the back of the cartridge case, and that ignites the powder inside the cartridge case, which begins to burn, producing
She
gas.
looks
That gas increases
25
pressure
knots,
inside of the cartridge
so
case, which then pushes the bullet
Would be
down
my
the barrel
guess.
and on its way toward a target. The pressure also pushes
Mid-
back on the
20s.
slide in a semi-auto
Yeah.
pistol and extracts and ejects that cartridge case.
Are you familiar with a
Hey,
revolver?
Salvador.
And in terms of casing issue?
I would ask,
extraction
but no one
and-
else would.
and
That
putting
would
it
be
out there,
your request.
what is the difference?
A revolver does not automatically extract and eject the fire cartridge
Would you call
case.
yourself?
You have to manually open the revolver's action and remove the cartridge case before you can put another cartridge in the chamber.
So if you find a casing at a scene, for example, what does that indicate to you? In terms of whether it's a semi-automatic or a revolver?
Yeah, it's the pearl
With
necklace.
revolvers, you typically do not
You look
find cartridge
older.
cases at a scene.
Why is that?
And you'd have to reload the revolver. You'd have to open the action, remove the cartridge case, and leave it at the scene.
Well, I think what I'm hearing you say is that with a revolver, you have to fire it, open up the revolver part, take it out and drop it and then close it up again, right?
That's correct.
And with the semi-automatic, you fire the gun and the casing comes out automatically, right?
That's correct.
So if you see one at a scene, the indication is perhaps is a semi-automatic, would be your opinion, right?
Yes.
Now, take a look at Exhibit 218 and see if you're familiar with that.
Jodie's left-handed.
Yes, I am.
You recognize it?
Yes.
And
Well, she was
take it
taking
into
notes, and it
examiner.
looks like
Yeah.
it
What
was
kind of-
left-handed.
All it is, not all, but it's a casing. What is it that you did with it to further this investigation, or what was it that you were asked to do?
I examined the cartridge case and observed that it had a head stamp
Okay,
that read Win 25 Auto.
What does that mean to you when 25 auto?
It is manufactured or branded as Winchester.
And when it says auto, I thought we were talking about.
Well, as a hobby
semi-automatic
gynecologist,
handguns.
I would say
Does the fact that it say auto on it mean something to you?
The auto is part of the name of the cartridge, and it designates that it is designed to be fired in a auto-loading pistol.
It's what now? What did you say? I didn't understand what you said.
The auto in 25 auto is part of the caliber designation for the cartridge case. And so the auto is, in this particular instance, indicates that it was this cartridge, it's the designation. So 25 auto is designed to be fired in an auto-loading pistol.
So are you saying that this 25 auto can only be fired in an automatic handgun? Is that what you're telling me? Or
No, that's.
What is it that you're telling me? Is that just the name of it, Winchester?
Let her
Auto?
talk.
Yes.
25 auto, is that all it is? Is that all you're telling me?
It's a
First of
caliber
all, there are
designation.
no automatic
Okay,
weapons in
and
America unless you are
anything
God
else
and
with
can get a
regard to
tax
that
stamp for
casing?
them.
I entered that casing into the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network.
Why would you do that?
The database holds cartridge case images from other crimes, and we enter images of other crime evidence in that database to look for hits or high confidence candidates. So when you enter a cartridge
You can
case
send
into
it to
that,
me and I
it
can
gives you a list
redirect
of
it.
possible
Because I
candidates
don't
back.
know if
You go
Mo
through those
will
correlations
give out
and you
her
determine if
actual
there are any
email.
high confidence candidates. So if
I
there are
do.
any
If I get signed up for
hits,
furry stuff, I'm going to
I
be very
did not
upset
find it in
and
this
or
case.
excited.
So in this
I don't
case, you
know
entered
which
it in
yet.
the database and you got nothing back, right?
That's correct.
Anything else with regard to that casing that you did?
No.
And my email
you
you
also
can
have occasion to
find in the
Work
About
with, exhibit
section
number
on my channel,
224. And this is
I
the
think.
bullets from the medical examiner.
No, you gave your email. Yep.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and if we take a look at it here, exhibit 210, see that?
Yes,
Is that the bullet?
it appears to be.
When you say it appears to be, always leaves room for doubt. Do you need to open it to make sure or not? Why don't you open it up and take a look at it to make sure it is the bullet?
A little bit condescending.
Yeah, I don't like his mannerism at all. Have we checked him for nose clams? I mean, he sounds like he took a bump or two before.
Yeah, Claesson means she's professional.
Yes, it is.
Okay, if you could go ahead and seal it and put it back for me.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that. I've seen worse, but
With
yeah.
regard to this bullet, were you able to determine the caliber of this bullet? In other words, can
What
you
is
just
the
take a look at
sun you
that
talk about
bullet,
broken?
Go back and see what the caliber of it is.
I examined the
It's the
basic characteristics, physical
Oh.
characteristics of that bullet, and I measured the base diameter, which help us to figure out
Sorry,
caliber.
Harry.
I also looked at the bullet weight and the other style that the bullet has. And all of those led me to the determination that this is consistent with a 25 auto bullet.
So you can go back and attempt to do that then, right?
Yes.
And what is it that indicates, how much does a 25 caliber bullet weigh?
Typically about 50 grains.
50 grains?
Yes.
And how much did this bullet weigh?
44.8.
And the fact that it didn't weigh the same, does that indicate to you that it isn't a 25 or that it is, given the circumstances?
No, bullets are frequently damaged when they're fired and they can lose weight that way. So that's not a big discrepancy, 44.8 to
Okay.
50 grains.
And anything else about the bullets that you found? For example, any markings, striations on it, anything like that?
Yes, there were rifling impressions on the bullet.
When you say rifling
Two
impressions,
marks.
those are impressions on the bullet, right?
That's correct.
And these impressions on the bullet, What are they made by?
They're left by rifling inside the firearm.
So is
Barrel?
it the muzzle of the gun that leaves them? Is that where the rifling is?
The rifling is from an entire barrel.
So it's
The
in the
firearm.
barrel of the gun.
Yes.
And what characteristics did this one have?
This one had 6 rifling. What rifling is it's a series of helical or spiral grooves that go the length of a barrel. And what they do is they help impart stability to the fired bullet.
And so looking at the rifling, I think you said it was 6 lands and grooves, I think?
6 lines and grooves with a right hand twist. They can either be right or left hand twist.
So 6 lands and grooves with right hand twist, is that consistent with a 25 caliber bullet? Or not? Or it has nothing to do with that?
It has nothing to do with it.
Okay. But is it your opinion that this is a 25 caliber bullet?
Yes, fired 25 caliber bullet.
To get back very quickly to the casing, take a look at Exhibit 114. It'll autofocus in a minute. With regard to the casing that you looked at, is that the casing that you looked at?
It appears to be.
When you say it appears to be, why don't you go ahead and take a look at the casing? Do you have that up there with you?
I do.
And take a look at the markings on it. What item number was the casing out at the scene as indicated by the exhibit?
1 LB.
1 LB, but it was 1, right?
Yes.
And if you take a look at exhibit number 114, what number is by the casing?
1.
I don't have any other questions.
Short, concise,
Cross-examination.
good testimony. We have 5 minutes left of this stream. I think actually we should try for at least a bit of
Through all of your
day 4 as well.
That's fine.
examinations that you did on the casing and the bullet, you were never able to match either one to a specific gun, right?
Did not have a firearm in this case, no.
And in
Nick,
fact,
does
this
beanbag lawyer ever get up and do
this
anything?
particular casing actually can match several different types of guns. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you're familiar with crime scenes, aren't you?
Yes.
And in crime scenes, especially if there's a struggle that is going on, you know that casings aren't always left where they are ejected.
That's correct.
Sometimes they can be kicked around.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Oh, husband is in trouble. He forgot my birthday.
With regard to this 25 caliber
I mean,
casing,
what-
is it
what-
a magical casing?
What it is.
No.
Sustained.
Is there anything unusual about this 25 caliber casing?
No.
And so that if, for example, there's blood on the ground, assuming that you were talking about a crime scene, you've been to crime scenes, right?
Yes.
And there is blood on the ground. Take a look at exhibit 114. See that
Sure,
there?
Matt, you had to Google it.
Yes.
We believe you.
Mad,
See, there's
your computer
reddish
now
brown
has
substance there, right?
syphilis. Use a bleach wipe.
And you see that the casing is there, right? Number
Yeah.
1, right?
Yes.
And does the top of it have any blood on it? Can you see that?
No.
Overruled.
Approaching 3 minutes left. I'm going to dun 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 dun.
May continue.
Oh.
May continue.
With regard to this particular casing, you see the top of it?
Yes.
Is there any reddish substance consistent with blood on top of it?
No.
And this reddish substance is where? Underneath it or on it?
Underneath it.
I don't have.
Who let you guys hang out unsupervised?
Well,
David.
we are talking about furries, so
We always blame David. That's the standard blame. If David's not here, it's his fault.
Truth.
Woo!
Ah,
So this is fun.
hmm?
I
Well,
feel
it's
like
Hmm?
she's an expert, but I feel like she's not sure of herself, so it makes me doubt her more. I feel like I feel like someone needs to push back on angry man lawyer. Because if
yeah.
I were an expert and he talked to me like that, he'd get the look like,
Yeah, I would have the judge look. Are you talking to me, sir? Huh? Huh?
the Kubrick.
Yeah. Are you talking to me? Well, let's see. It's
Any other questions? Thank you.
Does any member of the jury have a question for this witness? I see no hands. You may step down. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the evening recess at this time. Please be
Okay.
back in the designated.
So that was the evening recess, and I have day 4 picked up. Here's the thing about day 4. When David went looking for day 4, he found, but it started a bit late. So we are missing the first couple of minutes of sorts with the next witness. So I have no clue of who this witness is, what's his or her name, or stuff like that. So, but that's the Jodie Arias. So let's go into so at least we can go over 2 hours, so we can say words we want to say about
We
this.
have to get beyond the 2-hour barrier. It's
Yeah,
imperative.
yeah, because I want to say something like this. That's
Maybe the
goal.
lawyer will be, maybe he only took half a dose of whatever Adderall he's on today. So
Yeah, maybe.
was he the one that got in trouble for dating a juror afterwards?
I don't know.
And if so, you
I know
saw this
I,
douche the entire thing being an ass. We need to explain yourself, ma'am or sir.
yeah, but some women might like 5'5" lawyers. I don't know.
How do you know
They
this
fit in a
information,
suitcase
Mo?
better.
How did you get this information?
I thought when we were starting this, one of the lawyers got in trouble for writing a book, and another lawyer got in trouble, I thought, for dating a juror after. But I can't remember. And if it's this guy, I'm going to need someone to explain themselves to me.
I want to know now.
Mm.
Okay, so it looks like it was it was lawyer Beanbag. He was disbarred for SA and the
Oh, that's a bad thing. Don't do that. General advice.
Writing a terrible book, I guess.
Yeah. Well, whoever, if he was married, his wife might not be a happy lady finding out a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
Good Lord.
But let's see. First that. Increase volume. And let's see what he has to say.
If you need any assistance, if anybody out in California is welcome to call her. And
This individual, Jodie Arias, that we've been talking about, is she in court today?
yes, she is.
Tell me where she is seated and what she's wearing.
She's over there in a black long sleeve shirt.
Is she at the end of the table?
Yes.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the identification of the defendant?
Yes.
He can't describe Jodie
After
without
that, did you continue having
also
contact with
describing her
or not?
lawyer.
Yes. I don't believe we spoke for maybe
That's
3 or
their
4 weeks
defense.
after
No,
the
it's-
convention. I think we did
It's
a
perfect.
kind of a party for Utah.
Also, where was
before one
Maria
of our big
Sanchez?
events. And I think we were actually playing pool with a friend of ours named Zion Lovinger.
I don't know who it
And
is.
Zion, somehow Jodie's name came up and asked me if I knew who she was or how we had known each other. And eventually he maybe
Thank
kind of
you
played
for your
matchmaker a little
housewife.
bit and got, we talked about it. And then I ended up giving her a call, I think even that night at that event.
And how much time elapsed between the time that you met her and the time that you actually placed this call?
Probably 3 or 4 weeks.
And when you called her, what did she say?
I asked her if she remembered who I was. She said yes. And it just was, it seemed like a pleasant conversation. It went on for maybe 30 minutes for an hour, maybe.
And during the time that you and she spoke, was there an agreement or an indication that you were going to call her back? She was going to call you back? What was how was that conversation ended?
I don't know if we necessarily agreed, but I think we probably talked the very next day.
And did this sort of
He stole
continue
his
on where
grandpa's
you
suit.
continued to
Be
talk and that sort
kind.
of thing?
Yeah, from that point, we probably talked at least 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a week. Either she would call me or I'd call
Is this
her,
her
usually around
other
10 or 11 at
boyfriend?
night when our days were kind of
Ooh.
done.
Did there come a time where the two of you agreed, or she agreed to come out and visit you?
Yes.
Also phrasing.
Oh,
What's the
that
name of
is the
town that you
alibi
were living
guy.
in back then?
Salt Lake City.
Is Salt
Right
Lake
here.
City near West Jordan?
Yeah. This is suburb.
And were you living in Salt Lake City or in West Jordan?
West Jordan.
And when you say West Jordan, describe the living arrangements back then?
Back then, I actually lived in a kind of a side apartment with my family, and that their house is in West Jordan.
Yeah.
Did
he lived
that
at
side
home.
apartment have its own entrance?
Yes.
And did
He's
it have
like,
its own kitchen?
Technically, it would be the
Is that no?
basement.
No, I'm sorry. No, didn't.
So there's this sort of agreement that she's going to come out. Do you know about when you guys reached this agreement that she was going to come out?
It would have been the end of May.
And do you know what her itinerary was when she was going to come out there?
I can't remember for sure. It seemed like she was going to be on a road trip, or she was just going to come out and see me directly. I don't really remember, but she was going to come out and just spend one day because she would have to get back to work. So she's going to come out probably about a week from the time we originally talked about her coming.
Did she tell you what route she was going to take to visit you?
I think she had a friend that had a baby that was born or something. She wanted to visit her friend.
The baby that was born.
If I understand it right, she lived in Northern
Yeah.
California, so she was going to drive down to LA first, area, LA
Well,
area,
you know,
and visit that friend.
he doesn't look like
and then
he
from
knows
there,
how to
she was
get
gonna
made
come and see
yet.
me.
So
And
he's like,
are you
it was in a
familiar, I
Cabbage
guess,
Patch.
from the LA area up to Salt Lake City, Utah area?
Yeah, it's I-15 freeway the whole way.
And when you spoke to her about this particular trip and her itinerary, what day of the week was she supposed to arrive to see you?
I believe it was. I think it was Wednesday. That's the time that we normally have our training. And I think she was going to be there on Wednesday morning is when she had said. We talked the night before, maybe around 9 or 10 at
No,
night.
he was super Mormon.
Okay, so you
I believe
talked the
they
night
did
before
some
around 9 or 10
no
at night.
touching, but
And the expectation
was
was
no-
that she was going to be there the next day, which was a Wednesday.
No
around what
loophole.
time?
I knew it was about a
He
12-hour
was a
drive.
gooder
A little concerned about her
Mormon.
driving overnight because it's 9 p.m. She
he's
said
so
she'd be fine. She'd
sweet.
obviously pull over just to be safe if she needed to take a nap or something. So 12-hour
After
drive, I would
killing her
expected her
other
maybe at
boyfriend,
9 if she would drive
she's
straight
kinda
through. But of
tired.
course, probably she wouldn't drive straight through. So I thought maybe around 12 or 1, I was kind of expecting her to be there.
All right. So the next day, which was the Wednesday around 9 o'clock, did she arrive up there?
No.
And you talked something about training that day. What are we talking about when you say training?
Associates get together, kind of learn more about the membership and how the service against and serve families and things like that. And so we come
Is this-
together on a training on Wednesday night.
Okay.
So I think
is
she
this
I'll
was
be
church
in
or
I'll rest.
insurance
What
selling?
time was the training on Wednesday night?
Training was 7 p.m.
And where was the training scheduled to take place?
In Sandy, Utah, which is about 10 minutes south of West Jordan.
And did you attend that training that Wednesday?
Yes.
So it's 10 o'clock, noon. Did you
I
arrive by
can't
noon?
help myself.
No. And at noon, I
Okay,
was
so this is
obviously concerned
for
because she
the
tried to throughout the night.
insurance, not for Jesus.
And I
It's for
Well-
insurance, not for Jesus.
No, I have heard that Mormons or Latter-day Saints, they excel at selling and in these sort of MLMs because I guess they get used to people slamming their doors at them. I don't know, and being nice. But he seems so
Mm.
sweet. He seems like a big old puppy, and she just used him.
Mm.
He was like, "I have found my Mormon wife," and she was like, "I have found my alibi." So mean.
Yeah.
feel
Is
bad.
it
I hope
Mormons
he's
or is it Mormons or Jehovah's that doesn't celebrate Halloween because they don't like people knocking on their door?
Jehovah's Witnesses believe that any sort of celebration up to and including your birthday is sort of ideation or making idols, so they don't celebrate anything.
Yeah.
It could be why they don't recruit many people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get a birthday? Well, I'm out.
Like no birthday cake? Have you seen Office Space? You know what Milton does when he doesn't get his birthday cake.
If I don't get beer or bacon, I'm not joining. That's the
Pretty
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
If the Latter-day Saints would roll back their thing on pop, I might join, but somewhat addicted here.
tried to call her at 9, but her phone went straight to voicemail, so I couldn't get through. Tried to call again at noon. And I wasn't too concerned at 9. At noon or 1 when I didn't get a hold of her, at that point I was a little concerned, but it still was just going straight to voicemail.
So it
And
was just going straight to voicemail. every
yeah, I
day.
wasn't ringing.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Our new
And
church.
Beer,
How
bacon,
many
and booze.
tries did you give it? Let's say, after 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I joined that.
Maybe two more times. I also contacted another friend that I think she was going to visit while she was there. Mark and Leslie Jodie. And Leslie seemed to know her a little bit better than I did. I talked to her for 5 minutes at the convention, and then I talked to her a lot on the phone before she came over for about a month and a half. We'd have a lot of conversations throughout the week, but Leslie Jodie seemed to know her a little bit better. And so I asked Leslie if she had heard from her or if possibly she knew her number to her grandparents or whoever it was that she was living with, and maybe see if she was okay.
Were you successful after this call to Leslie Jodie in receiving a return call from the defendant?
No. So when we couldn't get a hold of her, I had just hoped that maybe she could figure out where our training was, and so I thought maybe I'd see her at the training.
So you went to the training and you said that started at 7 o'clock, correct?
I keep wondering if he stops around here on both sides, so it's just a jacket and a stick figure.
Maybe he lost a lot of weight. Maybe he was like, I got Jodie. I've got a nice, sweet girl that looks really nice. And he's like, I'm going to do keto-ish.
I'm going to do some keto before court.
He's like, it's going to be on national TV.
Oh my God. Mo, stop it.
What? I
No,
would.
you're cracking me up.
David, this is all your fault. You should be here being an adulting. And
Yeah,
seriously, I can't believe we're having an outside life.
I heard you guys trying to put me in charge. I'm the least responsible one. Get out of here.
I know. I just feel so doggone bad for him. He just reminds me so much of like a little puppy guy who's just, life hasn't kicked him in the face enough, but he's really sweet and he'd do anything for you. He is the kind of guy you want your daughters to date.
Deep thoughts by Mo. Good job.
I only have one or two a day. I don't know what he looks like under the suit. He might, but I need to see him in a t-shirt. Farrell, get on this. We need to see him now. Outside of the suit. I need to see if he wears shoulder pads all the time. Harry Peter. Oh my gosh. Well, his head looks teeny because his shoulders are so.
We don't know which head
Padded.
Salvador is talking
Oh
about.
well, yeah.
Oh,
Farrell,
no,
you're
oh.
on it.
7 p.m. Mhm.
And you hadn't heard from her at that point, right?
No,
So the training lasted for how long?
2.5 hours.
So that would place you at
2.5
what,
hours learning
9:30
how
in
to
the
sew
9:30.
evening?
crap. I'd kill
Where
myself.
did you go after that training?
At that time, we had a few of our buddies. Every week, we'd go over to the Cheesecake Factory, and we'd just hang out. We'd grab a drink, sometimes grab an appetizer or something. We'd just sit there and chat.
You are Mormon. You cannot grab a drink,
That's
but
where we go.
I feel you on
And
it.
while you
He's
were
a
at the
golden
Cheesecake
girl.
Factory, which
He's
would have been
Rose.
after 9:30, right?
Yeah, 9 p.m. Yeah, we got there probably about 10 p.m.
And while you were there at the Cheesecake Factory, what town is that in? That Cheesecake Factory that you went in?
Murray, which is maybe 10 minutes east of West Jordan.
And when you were there, did you receive a call from the defendant?
Yes.
About what time was that? call?
Maybe we had talked about it a little bit. I knew that she knew some other people at the table, like Mike Bertot was there
But you received a call from her.
around 10:30 p.m.
Right. And what did she say to you? when
Did
she
you
called?
hear that? What is that?
I mean, obviously, first I just said,
Let's hear that again.
like Mike Bertot was there.
Micro talk.
But you received the call from
Are
her.
around
those like
10:30
little
p.m.
tater tots?
And what did she say to you when she called?
Is that a micro?
I mean, obviously, first I just said,
Mean?
Jodie, and
Oh, he
she
gets
said,
all
"Hey,
light up
hey,"
when
and
he
then
says her
she
name.
from the get-go, and I just said, "Hey, are you okay?" And then she said, "Yes, I'm fine." And I just asked her, where she's been, and how.
So you
we can
asked
get
her
a
where
hold of her.
she's been. What did she tell you that she'd been?
She said a few things happened. For one, I think she said she's kind of airheaded like that, and she took the wrong freeway, and she drove the wrong direction for many hours. And then at some point, she got tired, and so she fell asleep, and she couldn't believe how long she slept by the time she woke up. And I just said, "Okay, well, good. I'm just glad you're okay. I couldn't get through to your phone." And when I asked, when I
look.
said
Like
that,
beanbag
Cross
did
examination
she
is
had lost
by.
her card charger. She hadn't forgot
that's-
to bring it, maybe pack it, and so her phone had been dead all day.
I'm going to speed
She
this up a
forgot
bit
the
because
charger
I
and her
want to
phone had
hear.
been dead all day.
Mhm.
How was it that she was
Yeah,
able,
he's
able
just
to call
making
you
me
from
want
that same phone?
cheesecake.
I think she told me.
Sustained rephrase.
Did she tell you something about that?
She told me that she had, I think, bought it from a gas station or something she found.
So she
Salvador.
told you she bought another charger, right? And how long did this conversation last?
I could be wrong, but maybe 30 minutes to an hour. It
And
could be longer. I'm not sure.
during that time that you were talking to her, was there ever an indication as to when she was going to, did you and she talk about when she was going to arrive in the Salt Lake City area?
Yeah, it seemed like she was still like a long ways away. She wasn't sure exactly where she was at, so we didn't know exactly how long it was going to take her to get there. So she had to kind of get her bearings.
So she told you she didn't know where she was, right?
Shoulder
Do you remember
pad
that
saved
scary
his life.
time where you would print out from MapQuest
I remember at some point, I don't know if it was
and
this
then have
conversation or
18
if I-
pages?
we disconnected for a couple hours
You're
and then
like,
she called
"The
back. I really can't
flip
remember. But at some
is
point,
Lincoln
I
Street?"
went into the living room where my father was, and I asked him what freeway should she take at this point where she was at. And so he also knew that she was coming. And
Phrasing.
I don't even remember where she said she was, but it seemed like a pretty simple answer. And then it seemed like she could have been maybe 7 or 8 hours away at that point. It still took her another 12 hours to actually get to my house.
So she called that evening and then you had this call around.
That's a
up to
longer
11
drive
o'clock.
than the
And
not
after that, she may have called you another
OnlyFans
time, right?
stalker.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, maybe. Hard to remember
She
now.
was delayed
And
a
then
little
after
bit
that,
by,
did you receive
like
another call late in the evening? or
repetitive
was it
motions
Is there any other
and
contact?
pew-pews, but
No, not until the next morning.
Did she know how to get to
She
your
went
house?
from
Had you given
one
her
I-
directions?
yeah, she must have had my
motion
address or
to
something.
another.
She knew how to get to my house. She'd never been there before, but she knew how to get there.
And what time
One
did
with
you
a
get there to your
tool
house?
and one
Here.
with a tool.
Getting out the door, but maybe around 10 or 11 the next day.
Harry,
I'm not positive on that.
And that would have been the Wednesday,
I
right?
mean, it's all together
that would've been Thursday
possible,
now.
but
That was Thursday then.
I have that now
And
in
she
my
was supposed to get
mind.
there Wednesday.
Yeah, so this is 24 hours after I was originally expecting her.
And did you have any plans for lunch during that?
I had an appointment, and so I'm not really clear of how this happened, but I know that she followed me to the appointment, So we,
Let me stop you there. Where was this appointment? And what was
was at
it
a place
for?
called Jim's Restaurant. It was less than a mile from my house.
And what was the purpose of the appointment?
I had an associate on my team who had another gentleman who felt like he had some connections, some people who could use our help from our company. And so we arranged the time for me to go and meet with him and do a presentation.
What time was the meeting scheduled for?
Could have been 11 or 12, I'm not positive.
So she arrives before that meeting, right?
Yes.
After she arrives there, does she stay a long time there at your house in West Jordan or not?
I don't remember anything before that event. And that meeting might have been the first time I think she came straight to that sit down with me because of the time she was showing up. And then she actually was with me during that sit down.
All right, so she was there during the meeting. Right?
Yes. Yeah, she actually followed me in her car there.
How far away was the meeting in terms of travel from your house to the restaurant? How far was it?
A mile.
And on the way from your house to the restaurant, you say you're driving your own car? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is she driving her own car?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yes,
And-
yes, she was for sure.
So she's driving her car, and as you're driving to this place, does something happen?
We get pulled over by a police officer.
When you say we, did you get pulled over too?
No, I was in front of her. So the police officer, her car was behind mine.
All
Police officer was behind
multi-level
hers.
marketers
And
will
who did you
take
pull
you
over?
to a
Both of
meeting,
you,
then
her or
not
Jodie?
went. Yeah.
And what did you do when the police officer pulled her over?
Just sat there, looked in my rearview mirror at them talking to each other.
And how far from your house, how much had you
You know,
traveled
she was
before
peeing
pulled
her pants, like getting pulled over
700
by the
yards.
cops
I
right
mean,
after
pretty much got
doing
pulled over right
this.
away.
over? And after you're watching in the rearview mirror, what do you see?
He's talking to her, and eventually, it didn't look like he gave her a ticket or anything.
Why do you say that?
Because I didn't see him hand her, and maybe he gave her a warning. I'm not sure. I was trying to figure out if she got a ticket or not, but I didn't really find out the story, I don't believe, until we went to the restaurant. I might have got out and talked to her there. I don't think so. I think we went over to the restaurant before I got the story what happened.
Okay, so you went to the restaurant and you had the story. What was the story that she told you?
She said it was a funny story. He pulled her over because her back license plate was upside down. And then I asked her how that would happen. And I think she had, what she told me is she was coming out of a Maverick or a restaurant or something like that. And
Where?
How many
sometime on
restaurants
her-
do these people go to?
And when she came out, there was these kids that were goofing around at the front of her car with the front license plate. And when they saw her, they were laughing. They dropped the license plate and took off. And she told me she thought that was the only thing they did. So she just took that license plate and put it in her back seat, or maybe put it back on. I don't remember.
Jamie, you
but she
live in a
thought that
more
that's all they did.
citified place than me.
Told me that
Do
apparently they
groups
also
of
switched my back
youth
license plate and turned it upside down.
upside down your
And,
license plate
so
for
the
just
police officer pulled
reasons?
her over. So we laughed
I've
about it.
never seen that in my life.
You know whether or not you helped her reaffix the license plate right side up.
I honestly don't know. I think I might have fixed it for her, but I can't remember.
So then you go to this meeting, the meeting is completed and she's there, right? Is what you told us.
Yeah, and she's had to sit down with me probably around 11 or 12.
After that,
Aw,
where did the two of you go?
We went back to my house.
Okay, and when you go back to your house, what did the two of you do?
basement.
We talked for a while. I think we agreed that we were going to watch a movie or something like that.
And-
And that's what we did. We turned on a movie.
And what happened during the movie?
At some point, we were talking and we kissed.
And
Aw.
did this kissing continue or did it just
And he's like,
stop at
and
one
we
kiss?
held hands.
Eventually, we kissed probably many times. Every time we started kissing, it got a little more escalated.
And with regard to
I
the
feel very
physical contact
uncomfortable
beyond
with
kissing,
him
was there
being
any
so
of that?
cheery about this.
Clothes never came off.
But she
At
had the
some point,
motion
she was
already
kissing my neck,
going,
kissing
so
hers, but clothes never came off.
How about your hands?
Yeah, my hands were. I never.
You know
touched her
his
breasts or anything
dad
like
is
that.
watching.
At
He's
one
like
point,
a
I had my hands
deacon
on
in
her
the
thigh.
church.
She was,
You better not have touched a
things
no-no
were-
place.
She was definitely
Gonna have
seemed
to
to be into
douse
the
you in
moment,
holy.
and eventually we stopped.
Before you stopped, did your hands ever go near her vaginal area?
Yes.
When you say that you stopped,
I'm
at any point did she say,
Right.
we
Why
need to stop?
answer?
Or
Why
how was
ask
it
that?
that it
I
came
don't
to
think
you?
really either one of us had said, please stop. We both just stopped. Part of our conversations with each other were about her religious views and my religious views. And I didn't want her to regret her trip. There, I didn't want that to happen.
premature
At some point we stopped, but it wasn't necessarily her stopping me or me stopping her. I didn't want to go any further for her to regret the trip.
During this interlude that you are having, what was her demeanor? Was she upset?
Nicholas, can
happy?
I
What
sue
was
for a
her demeanor?
secondhand
if you seem like
cringe
the person I'd be talking on the phone.
injury?
Just meeting her in person. There was never a moment where it felt awkward or anything like that.
At any time while this is going on, did you grab your hands and say, don't put it here, don't put it there, anything like that?
Yeah, she can finish off a
How
guy
How are we
really
going
fast.
into
And
this?
Yeah, I feel
so
like that's
later
just-
on, what did the two of you do?
Later on,
You
we
could just
had,
have one
I don't know
general
if anything else
question
happened
and
before
be
this, but we had to get to the business briefing.
And where was the business briefing?
We had to
Same again,
stop
same
and get
location.
to the
It's a 20-minute.
briefing.
And what time was the business briefing?
The business briefing
I'm
was
not
at
even
7 p.m.
drunk, you guys. This is just
And
terrible.
Yes,
so.
I
you
agree,
did
Tweety.
background on
Ryan
one, so it's 1 to
understand.
7 that you and she were together,
He
correct?
seems like a
Is that yes?
decent
Uh,
guy.
Like I said,
yeah, so
I,
1 7
I want him to
We
date
are-
my
And
daughters.
did
I
you
don't
also
want him
do
to
that?
I don't know. I don't know.
to ever tell me what they do on a
So what
couch.
happens with regard to the business briefing? Do you go by yourself or do you go with
No,
them?
we go together. I think she drove with me. I think I was just going to take her back to her car. She might have followed me there. I don't
The
remember
back
that.
door?
But we showed up definitely together at the same time. And she, obviously people were surprised to see her there. A few people knew who she was, and obviously,
Yeah,
she was from
everyone
California,
who's
asked her,
watching.
say
These
hi,
are
what she's
3
doing in town.
adult kids commenting on
With
this
regard to
trial.
her hair color.
Get
when you
used
met
to
her,
it.
What was her hair color?
To be
Blonde.
fair, we
When she
are
came
listening
over to West
about
Jordan,
how he got like
what
to
was her hair color?
semi-second base
Dark,
Yeah.
cheerfully.
And during the time that you and she
front of
are
God
alone
and
in
everyone.
the afternoon, did you notice her hands?
And he's still
Yeah.
smiling about
And did
it,
you notice whether or not
knowing
she
what
had any injuries or
her
cuts
hand
to
motions
one of her
might
hands?
mean.
She had 2 small bandages, it seems like, on one of her fingers.
Oh,
Her couple
they're
of
like,
fingers.
Did you and she
oh,
talk about that?
for the love of.
Yeah, either then or yeah, we did at some point. Yes.
And what did she tell you about those cuts?
She worked at Margaritaville, and I guess she broke a glass. And she cut her
Well,
finger.
I'm not asking you to guess. I'm asking you
She's-
to tell me what
So
she
she's
said.
a worse
We
bartender
know
than
that you weren't there. You don't
AOC.
know. I'm just telling you what.
She told me she worked at Margaritaville and she cut her finger.
And how did she cut her finger at Margaritaville?
I think she told me she broke a glass and cut her finger.
So you go to this training, and how long does this training last?
No one,
About an hour.
And then what happens?
only
after
you
that?
want that.
We get a whole bunch of buddies again, and we go out to Chili's, and that's we went over there and talked for probably 2.5
You
Chili
guys,
and
this is like the 6th
At any time
restaurant
during
we've heard
this
about.
Evening, she,
They go
what
to
was her
some good
demeanor?
restaurants.
Crying
though.
at any time? Was she
I love
upset
all.
at any time?
I'm over here trying to stay away from
I
carbs
mean,
and
the
keep
only time-
Jesus in my
I mean,
heart.
She was fine. She was laughing
He's
about
over
simple little
Cheesecake
things, just like
Factory.
any other person.
Chili's?
I never once felt there was anything wrong about the day. I felt like socially, the first time I ever saw her in a crowd, I thought she was she was much more comfortable one-on-one. That was the first time I know she was a little awkward in social areas, and it seemed like she didn't talk very much to some other people.
She's a
Some other
three-hole
people
wonder,
talked
but
about that a
just
little
for
bit, but
one.
it just wasn't the Jodie I knew.
No
'cause one-on-one
parties
she
of
was,
10, please.
Very talkative and insightful and
So
very different.
So it seemed like in social situations, she was a bit more inhibited and shy.
A little shy, yeah.
And with you, that's not how she was when you were alone, with her,
Not
right?
at all.
Did she leave then to go back? or
Old
did
line
you guys
red,
make it back
someone
to
needs
your
to
place?
get
We made it back to my place.
the Morgan Freeman from Shawshank voice to do that.
Yeah.
Seriously, lawyer, I thought day 3's combination was interesting. Is that a pale green jacket with a purple shirt and what the actual fuck is that tie? Is that a giraffe pattern tie?
His wife hates him. His wife hates him, and the people that sold him that double hate him. They're like, "No, sir, you look fantastic." They are
He went
laughing at
into
you,
the
sir.
store and said, please, Mr. Shop guy, girl, I'm colorblind, so please only sell me things that fits together. And she was in a bad mood that day. And sure, sir, have these.
He was probably a giant walking douche canoe and was like, I'm an important lawyer. I'm on the Jodie Arias case. It's gonna be televised.
Is
And
that his voice?
yes. And then they're like, okay, sir, really? And they're like, he says, I'm very important. And they're like, we've got suits for you, sir.
I'm so
He
sorry,
comes in and
Shima.
acts like a douche.
David's not here, and we are 3 adult kids commenting on fashion in a
He
murder
looks
trial.
like a Jello mold. I can't with him anymore. Like those weird ones your grandma made with like pineapple and olives for some damn reason.
Oh my God. Stop it. Whew.
It
He
is a
has the boobs
choice.
for it.
He has the boobs for it.
Well, at least he's not trying to dress like Jodie, like the lady lawyer.
That's just so unattractive to sit that way. Just, like, come on, guy.
He just looks, for the amount of money I am sure he spent on that suit, because it has been a culture shock, my husband going from the military to where he needs to wear business suits. So the amount that he probably spent, like, into the 400s for that suit, he looks slovenly. It's just not a good look.
I mean, I have my lovely jackets that drunk me buys to sober me as just having fun. Would I wear it to court? Absolutely not. Unless you paid me a fuck ton of money, then maybe. But no.
I mean, is that a challenge? Because we might have to.
Oh, someone just said his socks match his tie. I can't see his socks. Well, maybe now I'm having the flashback from the autopsy photo. Is that a foot?
Oh,
poor Soda and Popcorn. She's like, or they're like, I just jumped back into chat and I don't understand.
You can buy $1,000 suit, but if it don't fit well and you sit like that, it's gonna look bad.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a $1,000 suit, and if it is,
no, I just know from
rack.
okay, my husband has to go to the big and tall store because he's a taller guy and they never seem to have the right pant length. And it seems like they're like, well, for 2 extra inches of fabric, we're going to charge you $300.
yeah,
You know,
but I mean, I'm built more or less like an orangutan. I have
I'm built like
big upper body, giant, long arms, and I like this much legs. I mean, buying a suit is an adventure because if I want a suit that fits well, I either have to have it tailored, or I will buy 2 suits, one for upper body, one for lower body, and then mix it, and then give the rest away. That's
shit.
I mean, my girlfriend is like 5'7", 5'8" or something. I'm 6'3". Our hips are at approximately the same level. The rest of me is just upper body, and yeah,
I
we
have an
get
extremely
as
short
I said,
torso, so I understand.
I grew up in rural Sweden, where gene pool wasn't that enormous. What can I say? I mean, family trees, fork. What are you talking about?
I had to go to Walmart today, and yeah, the family gene pool is somewhat small in some boats. All right, let's get back on track. Little discount or wish Henry Winkler is talking and he's not being a giant dill
Made
hole.
it back to your place.
We made it back to my place.
What time was that?
Late, or 11, maybe.
And when you got back, what did the two of you do?
I think we turned on a movie again. Maybe it was the same one we were watching. Maybe it was a different one, but we were tired. We fell. She had to get back to Margaritaville. That was why she couldn't come forward with us the next day. She almost was going to stay with us, and everybody was, telling her to. But she seemed to think about it. But it got to the point where she felt like, no, she couldn't. She's got to get back to work. And so we left. But sometime as we left, she said she don't have to leave right now. And so I said, well, we can go back to my place again if you don't want to leave right away. And so we went back to my place and we took a nap.
All right. And
sure you did.
Apparently, this child will just be getting worse and worse.
I don't know how long
and you have adult kids commenting on it.
And what else
Sometimes I will interject with legal analysis and stuff.
Pretty aggressively, and we were kissing.
But apparently, this trial is a clusterfuck.
Genital area compared to yours.
I mean, she was right on top of me.
And you guys were kissing, correct? Is that yes?
Yes.
And how long did this encounter take?
Maybe a few minutes.
And during that time, was there a decision to go forward or a decision to stop?
we just stopped.
Forward
And-
motion or stop?
You partly made that
Um,
decision, correct?
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes,
At any time, did
But
she
not
say
the part of
stop
me
or
that
go
wanted
I'm
to
forward,
so
not.
sorry,
anything
Mr.
else, anything like that?
not at one
I'm
of
so
us.
sorry,
We
Mr.
just-
Burns. You seem
it was
like
kind
a
of the same
nice
feeling I
guy,
had.
but
We just stopped.
no.
Anything about her demeanor
Nicholas,
that indicated to you
what
that she
is
was
the
upset
point of
about anything?
asking all these questions?
Not at all.
Yeah,
In terms
About
of,
this.
you were around her for that day. Did you form an opinion based on your contact with her and being around her as to her strength?
they are
and
establishing
how
a
fit she
pattern
was?
how she
She's very fit.
acted before, during,
what?
and
She's very
after
fit. She was in
the
good shape.
murder
in
with
terms of her
him
strength, did you
as
form an
an
opinion?
adult
I
to
know,
counteract
but can
her
We were,
defense as a crazy lady.
instant messaging back and forth. So
can,
at some
can we
point, I
not talk about
complimented her on being
crotchular
very feisty,
areas?
and
I just
it's kind of referring to she's a lot stronger than she looks.
he looks
Um,
about 12 and a half, and I just
During this
I
encounter,
can't.
after you wake up, did she ever, and the phrase may have been adjust you in any way?
Yeah.
While this encounter is going on?
Well, that's what I mean. When we woke up, we were kissing, and then she eventually kind of grabbed me and adjusted me a little bit, and that's when she got on top of me and we were kissing.
And were you able to feel her strength at that point?
I'm going to put
Yeah.
that into an AI picture and just see
Again,
what
throughout the
what
day,
comes
part of
out.
that
I-
as to-
Why do we keep talking about their
At any point,
their pieces
did you
and
ever
parts,
kiss
as
her
I
stomach?
call it to my
Yes.
kids?
And were you able
I
to see her stomach
can't.
in terms of whether or not she was in shape?
Yeah, close to a six-pack, yeah.
You said it was close to a six-pack?
That's what she was even talking about in our MSN or our instant messaging through Google.
And after you stopped.
So she was
what
an
happened? Did she
ethot before
stay, or did she
ethoughts were
go?
around.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I kept on reminding her she had to get to work. That's what she was telling people at the dinner, and that was kind of the whole reason she had to go. And she said she wanted to stay just a little while longer, and we stayed a little, maybe a few more minutes is all. And then just kind of walked out to her
adjust
car
me
and,
again.
and said goodbye.
What time was that? Any idea?
12, 1 p.m., 1 a.m. possibly. It was later. Could even be later than that. I don't remember.
One of the things that you indicated to me was that there was this sort of instant messaging part or component of your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, we would talk
An
every once in a
instant
while.
message.
If I noticed she was
you
online
say.
or if she noticed I was online, we both had a Google account, I believe. And so you can kind of tell when they're on. And so you can just kind of write a little message. And, a few of our conversations were through that.
Describe for me how that's different, if you know, from emailing, in other words.
I mean, it pops right up on the screen if you've got your
For
Gmail
the
open.
love
we
of
just
God,
So
are we
if somebody says, hi. it
are we
pops right up and
explaining
you can reply and
AOL?
You can almost carry on a conversation while you're doing other things. But I mean, it's kind of like a text message back and forth. It's immediate. You're both responding right away. And sometimes you're even responding to things that are 2 or 3 questions away, so it can kind of be confusing.
Let me show you exhibit number
This.
284. Go ahead and take a look at it. Are you familiar to who that is sent?
Yeah, this is from Jodie Arias on May 30th.
And who's it sent to?
Me.
And it has, without reading it, it has something on there, right? Something written.
Yeah, what she wrote me.
I can have that back.
Oh God, do we have written things that I can
Move for the admission of
dramatically
exhibit
read later?
284.
What did it say? Come on.
284 is admitted.
Oh Lord, let it not be something cringy more that he has to say.
Then where are your hands, sir?
Yeah, well, she was adjusting me. It isn't a
284,
hand
and if you look at your computer there, I think it'll pop up.
employment.
And this is from her to you, and
Oh,
what
for
did she say in this message dated May 30th of 2008 at midnight, 12:21 a.m.?
It says, hey there, handsome. This is a test.
The fact that it says this is a test, do you know whether or not this is the first contact that you had via this messaging system?
Yeah, it could have been.
This is your fault,
I don't remember being
David.
too familiar with using it too much before this.
You should know better.
You didn't send this though, right?
No.
Take a look at exhibit. Well, let me show you another exhibit. 287, take a look at it.
Yeah.
Is it the same sort of message and it's between you and her?
Yeah, it's just this one's on 623.
All right. I'll move to the addition of exhibit 280.
Hold on. This is what I got.
Oh, shit.
But you're not a ginger right now.
Not anymore. I haven't been
Well, if you-
ginger in 20 years.
I freaking love it.
You know, AI may become our digital overlords and put us in pods and make us batteries, but I think if I'm allowed to just make funny memes, I think I'll be okay with it.
I love it.
Like
I'm going
the
to save
Matrix
that
is
picture.
okay. We have memes.
Yeah. Just a 20-year-old picture of me.
Only this stream is gonna get all this. Is gonna get it. It's great. I love it.
Oh, let's get back to this. I'm saving that picture, by the way.
You have to.
Oh, and at David's John Gordon,
You may.
bet this guy is thinking, it should have been me she stabbed. Well, at least the same hand motion, but no.
Lower.
Lower.
I love how he's like, she just adjusted me. Now, I am not an expert in adjustments. I only have 6 children, but I believe adjustments is how you get those babies that are born.
The born babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The out of the hatch babies. Like, just I mean, he's such a dude though, because a guy would say, like, you know, a baby, like one that's here. I don't know. They all look like weird old men to me.
That was great how he said it though.
Oh, another sidebar.
Her hate face is just on point. But
Yeah.
sweetie, eat a cheeseburger. It's a little Esmeralda
Yeah,
from
you
Emperor's New Groove.
to Jodie
Or
Arias,
Isma.
right?
Yes.
In reading this, it appears that it says at the top, but it's always great to hear from you.
Oh, God, the last
when that says me,
sentence.
and then directly underneath.
If
it,
I
it
don't get a
says
T-shirt
Ryan's
from
PPL.
someone that says
Are you
Hottie
me or Ryan's
Biscotti, I'm
PPL?
going to be
I'm
very
Ryan's
upset.
PPL.
And in terms of reading it,
Sold at Walmart.
it does say that it's always great to hear from you.
Custom.
You do the same, referring to something, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the conversation looks like it starts at the bottom. Like
So-
it goes the other way.
So it
That's
would
the
be,
last thing that was said.
so it would
Begins at the
actually
bottom.
read, we're going to read this.
And then
Hottie
goes the other
We're
way.
saying to you, hey, Hottie Biscotti,
Oh,
what's new, right?
Yeah, that's what we read in the first.
Give up.
Is Hottie Biscotti a pet name she gave you, or is that just something that's in this text message or message?
I'm gonna
I
use that.
didn't- She might have said it a few times. I don't remember her calling me that on a regular basis.
And then it says Ryan's PPL says, hey,
I'm
you,
just so
what's-
glad she remembered my
Probably what's up
name
and
and
type it. You're
didn't.
not really spell checking yourself as
That's
you're
probably
going through
why she
Then-
said it.
Me, which would be her, says, actually, I'm just
She had
running
to
off
remember
work.
which boyfriend
And
it
you responded
was.
with what?
Like,
this.
What's
Okay,
this
have a
guy's
great day.
name?
And then what did she respond?
She said, "You do the same, but it's always great to hear from you."
There were other such conversations between the two of you, right?
Yeah.
Was there a conversation that took place in which she discussed the breakup with Travis Alexander?
Not too often, but we talked so much that, yeah, I mean, a few times we talked about it.
And take a look at Exhibit 286 and see if you recognize it and whether or not that's a conversation that talks about the breakup.
Yeah, this is a few days after she was, we were
Oh,
together
look, it's
in
a
West
pin
Jordan,
diagram in the background.
and we did talk about.
what the?
yeah,
Sit
we-
up
we did
straight, son.
break up here a little bit.
That is not favorable.
Just the tip.
Yeah. And now nobody can unsee it. You're welcome.
No,
Oh my God.
it isn't a biscotti isn't stale bread, it's a double baked cookie. I do a lot of baking when I'm trying to not be good.
I love, yeah, Nick had to stop it just for that. You're welcome, everybody.
About some of the things that happened, and yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's why it's so weird in the front end, because everything is in the back on him.
Party up top, business in the That's the motto for this trial.
No,
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Mr. Burns is a
little bit about some
good
of the things that
guy,
happened.
I hope.
I move for the admission of Exhibit 286.
I don't think any of us will ever be hired by Law and Seaward for doing their trials.
Well, if they
On
ever
their
want to
channel.
invite me on, I am the queen and head of LayTube. It's suggestive name, and we are loosely associated with LawTube.
Yeah, we
Allegedly.
kind of allegedly.
We
Yeah,
would be better than anybody they got on there.
yeah, Mrs. Helm, we are sorry for making jokes about your son. Well, this is 10 years ago. He might be married, so sorry, Mrs. Helm, for making these jokes. But oh my, this is.
He's been on for 2 days. Did she change her outfit, or was I just not paying attention? It's very possible I wasn't paying attention, or I confused her with her lawyer. In the battle of the judge hair...
Were they done? Were they done? Are we going to... No. Here's your fine, sir. No. He's... Oh, marking
Let's
the
go ahead and
evidence.
take a look at Exhibit 286.
Oh, Lord, not more text chats.
This is page 2 of 9.
Oh, Lord.
Come on, this might get spicy.
Oh, that was a good idea.
Oh, Lord. Law and Seaward had Andrew Bronca on. Was it
You
tie
see
or
the-
no tie?
I think you talked about it. It was a while
who?
back.
That's Jodie.
They didn't
And
like
the
it.
Ryan's PPL is who?
He
It's me.
said,
Me does indicate something there. Why don't you read to us what that sentence or that whole section says?
You want me to read it or just say what I?
No, it's
remember?
just whatever it says, starting with anyway.
Anyway, back to Travis real quick, and this is Jodie. Anyway, back to Travis real quick. He's a great person, and I wouldn't want to edify him as anything else. We all have our character flaws. We've seen each other at our absolute worst and our best. We are just fundamentally different.
Literally, he saw her at her worst.
yeah.
Well, she was honest.
Yes, I know Branca is perfectly
This is page 4 of 9.
capable
If you
of
start reading with me
behaving.
from the
I do
bottom,
know
and read
that.
out for me.
In theory,
And
someone...
me is Jodie Arias, correct?
What, you want me to start on well?
No, where it says yes. Uh-huh.
Well, there is a little more.
What
Why
Laugh
is
out
he-
loud, LOL.
Wait, Nick,
Hold on.
stop for a second.
The whole time we were seeing each other after we
He
broke up.
is reading Jodie's part, so wouldn't that be hearsay, or am I confused?
I guess well, since the defense doesn't object, and it is a transcript of actual texts.
Well, I know, but he's having him read only the Jodie Arias parts, not his parts. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works, but
Also,
Salvador says they because they can cross on it. Yeah. Okay.
okay. Well, Well, see,
another
atheist
girlfriend.
aunt knows all the
I had no
things.
idea he didn't tell me about
This is less
her,
of a hearsay
her
because
probably until
it's
after
actually
they
written
broke up.
down, transcripts of actual texts.
Note to self: delete all texts.
There you
They'll
go.
find you. Don't worry.
But I felt
If I
so
have my
bad
phone
this time I was
slightly
the other
on.
girl. I wanted to tell her, but that would have caused a lot of unnecessary drama and pain. Anyway, since she asked what time it was, I decided to text her back, quote, "Time to cuddle with Jodie. Good night." Then I deleted the message, went to sleep, and never mentioned it to him.
Let's continue on. What did you say?
I said, "Oh man, that is intense."
And she
Oh,
responded,
man, that's intense.
But it got to the point where I couldn't keep it in anymore. I confronted him. We broke up, and I kind of wish that was the end of the story. But he is very persuasive, and we continue to see each other, even though we were no longer boyfriend, girlfriend.
so she talks about this text message and what she did with it, right?
Yeah.
As part of her coming out there, did you and she continue on talking about what it was that you might do when she came out
Talk
there to see
like
you?
you're always
Before she
going
came the first
to
time?
have this read up.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
God.
talked about maybe watching a movie.
If I get sued, I might have to explain how we are
Take a look
acting.
at 285. Does this sort of summarize
I'm in Sweden.
your conversation?
Welcome over here and try to sue me.
Yes. This is, before she came.
I move for the admission of Exhibit 285.
Yeah, that's a bit late for Jodie. Yeah, if most of your text conversations is about an ex, maybe not try to get involved with that. And another sidebar.
Is admitted.
While they're marking that, let's take a look at a couple more lines on exhibit number 286. And this is page 3 of 9. Read the part that says, me.
Then while we were in Huntington Beach, he fell asleep and a text message came through from a girl that said, "Sorry, I didn't get back to your last text. What time is it there?" I tried, oh, okay, and then up. So of course, I read the last text he sent her and it said, "I really miss you." Gosh, I'm making myself look so bad. This is still her. I had a really strong gut feeling. I'm not saying I'm psychic, but I've been cheated on twice.
Her unloading
Before,
on
and
him,
it's a very distinct
while
one
he is
that
wishing
I cannot
it was the
ignore.
other
So
way
I asked
around.
him gently about it, and he got really angry, and it led to an argument. He said I was crazy to think that, so I left it alone. But the feeling persisted, and one day while he was taking a nap, I took his phone and
he
read
was
his
in
text
the friend
messages.
zone
Bad, I know.
until she had use for him.
Yo.
And exhibit number 285, for example, you talk at the bottom about getting sushi and that sort of thing, but basically it just talks about what your plans are when she comes out, correct?
Yeah, she had said that about getting sushi or something.
Did you and she also text message each other back and forth?
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination by...
Moment, Garner.
I really want him to keep sitting like that and question him. Does he gotta? No.
Morning, Mr. Burns.
How you doing?
Let me start out today. I want to talk to you a little bit. I think what you told us was that you met Miss Arias in Oklahoma City.
That's right.
And that was at a, I think you call them convention for people that go, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned having a conversation with her after a meeting or a ceremony, if I understood you correctly.
Yeah, it was like a specific team breakout session. And so it's a little bit smaller than the entire convention, it's just a closer knit team.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you began to talk to her after that. Do you remember how long that conversation was?
It couldn't have been more than
He
a
hasn't
few minutes.
seen
It
the
was
front of
quick.
his belt for a
didn't
very
spend lot
long
of
time.
We were going to and from.
And what were your initial impressions of Jodie at that time?
She was nice, beautiful. That's what I remembered about her.
Okay. At this point in time of this convention in Oklahoma City, and it was April 2008, that was your recollection or thereabouts?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know a man by the name of Travis Alexander?
Yes. I knew who he was. I didn't know him personally.
Okay, so
Ooh,
you
shade.
kind of describe that for us, what you mean by that?
Yeah, I maybe 3 months in the business, I
You
was
haven't,
struggling, not doing so well. I wasn't even thinking about
those
quitting.
pictures are
And then
still
at some point, Travis
later
Alexander
on,
was
I
flown
believe.
into town as a guest speaker for Salt Lake City
If
Market.
you become a
And
member
I
of
attended that at training,
David's
and
channel,
I was
you
inspired by him.
can
It
get
kind of
an
changed
invite
my
to the
business around.
Discord.
And that was my only
To
encounter
his
with him
Discord,
personally.
and
And so I
apparently
just
their
I kept going, and
it's
did much
cookies
better
and
after that.
nudes.
Now, you also
Pretty
mentioned
much.
that sometime subsequent to this initial meeting with Ms. Arias. By the way, was Mr. Alexander there when the two of you were speaking during that initial session?
I don't know. I don't remember him, so probably not.
Okay,
Ooh,
Being
more
there.
shade.
all right. And as someone who was important to you, you probably would have remembered that.
I probably would have recognized him. Yeah, probably. I mean, I know he was at the event, but not that specific event when me and her were talking and exchanged numbers.
Okay, gotcha. And you mentioned
Is his
something.
beard really odd?
There was a smaller team get together where a gentleman by the name of Zion Lovinger, did I get that correct, was there?
Excuse me. Yeah, that was probably about a month after convention. We were playing pool downstairs.
Okay. So this was after the convention was over. It was just the two of you then? Is
This
that-
lawyer
I mean,
apparently
there was a bunch
wrote
of
a
people,
book
and I can't remember
about
whose
his
house we were at, maybe
experiences
Dave
with
Paul's mom's
Jodie
house or
Arias,
something like that.
and
But it
that
was kind
kind
of
of
a dinner
broke attorney,
get together with just the business people in
client
Salt Lake
privilege
and
of
the
sorts.
Utah area.
Okay.
And yeah, eventually Jodie's name came up, and
Do you remember the context of her name coming up at this meeting? It sounds kind of out of
it's been
place.
so long. I don't really remember if I brought it up or if he did. I'm not sure.
Okay. In between this initial meeting and the time her name was brought up in this meeting, the pool or what have you, did you have conversations with Ms. Arias?
I don't think so. I think it was about a 3 or 4 week break before we really started talking after that convention.
Okay. Tell me what you can recall about that conversation with Zion about Jodie.
She's cool. You should give her a call, something like that.
Okay. You mentioned that he was trying to play matchmaker between the two of you, I think was your words, right?
Yeah, it could be an assumption, but yeah.
Okay.
You have
What
to
do you mean by
finish
that?
last night.
I mean,
But it
he
doesn't look
mentioned that I
finished.
should call her, and I told her that I originally had her number,
Hey, Kim.
and I think I even
Welcome.
asked him for it because I didn't have it anymore.
Okay. And did you?
So wait.
Did he?
He
express the
got
reason why?
match made with Jodie through the dead guy.
No.
It's like, take her off
Something
me.
he said must have motivated you to call
I
her, is
mean,
that?
Yeah.
My crime board, the string
And
lines won't even
Just so
go
we're
in a
clear,
spider web.
you
They'll
were
just
single
go
at this time
straight.
back in April 2008, or maybe May when you had this conversation with Zion?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Yes.
And so did you take Zion up on his offer and did you call Miss Arias?
I think if I remember right, I actually called her right there at that event.
Okay.
Because I believe the first time I talked to Jodie, I was at somebody else's house. It seems like I even found it. Yeah, there was a room that had a sitting room, and I think everybody was kind of out this way. And I started talking to her, and I actually went and sat in that room where there was nobody at, and we started talking, and we talked for quite a while.
Okay.
Seemed to hit it off pretty quick.
Okay. Do you remember how long quite a while was?
Could be 30 minutes. You could tell me it was 3 hours. I wouldn't remember at this
All right.
point.
Fair enough. But you remember it being a pleasant conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Was your, thinking of how to put this, was your interest romantic, if you will?
I mean, sure. I was interested in getting to know her better and possibly dating her. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you remember about that conversation? I mean, just other than it was pleasant.
We talked about the same kind of books that we'd like to read. I mean, Atlas.
Oh my
Shrugged,
God,
Think
if they
and Grow
both
Rich, How to Win
read
Friends and
Chad
Influence People. She
Daybell
kind of
books,
had a lot of the same interests.
my
She was
year
very
will
good
be made for the rest of my
conversationalist
life.
on the phone.
Thank you,
We
Jamie.
just had a lot in common.
Gifting
When I initially
the
met her, I mean,
membership
she's
on my channel.
a businesswoman at a national convention entrepreneur, so I thought that was an attractive trait.
Okay.
Just all those kinds of things that sounded like somebody I wanted to get to know.
Okay. And everything in that phone conversation, nothing dissuaded you from your initial feelings, right?
No.
Okay. You also mentioned, and I think this might be a good point to talk about, you mentioned the fact that in crowds, she was a bit of a shy girl, but in private, it was different.
Very different.
Okay. And I just wanted to, because it sounds like after the convention, when you first met her, you didn't see her.
You
in
get a
person
few
again until June
margaritas in her,
2006,
she
is that
gets
correct?
all
Right. That
sorts
was the
of
first time we ever
wine.
met. That's when she came on that
Okay.
road.
So
Outside of that.
what I was curious about, what I was asking about, and if you could explain it for us, is how did you draw that comparison? How did you make the comparison that she's a little bit different? engaging in conversation and shy in groups. Could you kind of?
Sure. I mean, just when I talked to her, it was such a brief moment there in Oklahoma when I got her number. And then when we talked on the phone, it was just one-on-one, me and her, and she was very easy to talk to. There wasn't ever any awkwardness there. And I felt like I got to know her pretty well. She was funny. She
was
just
telling
had
me
a
all
lot to
about her
say and a lot of
boyfriend.
insight on things. She
And
asked a lot of questions. And, you know, it just never seemed like there was ever a moment of awkwardness. Now, when we got together at the briefing, I started noticing, you know, that she was a little shyer, you know, when she was in a crowd. And, you know, that's just something I noticed. I just noticed she didn't, she's just a little shyer when she was in front of people.
Okay. And this briefing that you just mentioned, that was in June of 2008. That's when she came to Utah, right?
Right.
Okay.
That was Thursday. Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you made contact with her in the February, I guess it would have been,
probably.
I'm losing track of my months, April or
Probably
so.
May or end of April could have been.
Okay. When
And
you
Jamie
had that
gifted a
contact,
membership to on
Did you have any awareness of her
David's channel.
dating Mr. Alexander, having a relationship?
No, in fact, at some point we had a conversation where she told me that they talked a couple times a week. And that actually shocked me because I talked to her for quite a bit of time. And I thought that relationship was long in the past. So when she mentioned that to me, I was kind of surprised that they weren't. But then it made more sense as she explained that was her executive director. That was the one that kind of, you know, and she also explained that at times she would help him put in applications and stuff with the company. And she was working
do not
with
dip
him
your
as
pin in
him being her
company
mentor
ink,
in the business as
people.
well.
Okay.
Especially if you're in MLMs.
It advised you that she helped him
I
put
mean,
in
imagine
membership
the
applications.
I mean,
essential
she'd said
oil
a couple
party
times a week they
being
would talk
real awkward.
Business matters, but the relationship seemed to be far behind them.
Okay. Did she ever mention that she gave Mr. Alexander memberships so he could keep his
Yeah, I
numbers
think
high?
she did help him qualify for executive director if he was close. I don't know if she just mentioned she helped him in what way, but maybe, yeah.
Okay.
So
And
they
you
are
mentioned, I think it might be a good
also
time to kind of,
asking for memberships.
describe, you said to help him maintain executive director, right? I think that's the word you used, right? What is that? What does that mean? Could you just?
It's a bonus level in our company. And you get paid a lot more if you qualify for it. And so it requires a certain number of applications that your team would process. At that time, I believe it was 75 memberships. And so if you only had 73 by the end of the month, you would still get paid director commissions, but not the executive director bonus. And so it's not a position you'd want to miss if you're close.
Okay. So it is
You don't want to
there's
miss if you're
financial
close, okay?
reward for being a quote unquote executive
It
director.
is a
correct?
big pay jump. Yeah.
You say big pay jump. Is there any way you can, I understand it's a commission-based business from what I understand anyway, I should say. Is that correct?
Actually,
for example,
talking
my
about
first month as a
multi-level
director, I made
marketing
$6,000.
in
My
this
first month as an executive
car.
director, I had my first $10,000 month.
Okay.
So it was
He sells
$4,000
a
increase.
shit ton of LuLaRoe. You know
And
he
would
does.
that also, apart from the financial.
He's like,
reward,
these are the
obviously just
softest
described
leggings
as
you will ever
significant,
feel.
Are there, for example, status, does this status allow you into certain
No,
places
she was
or
actually
certain
selling
meetings, or could
legal
you kind of define that?
advice.
Yeah, like an executive
ish.
director banquet, for example, might be the only thing I could think you're referring to, or that you would get. Basically, you just got paid more, but there would be certain incentives the company put out that would be just for the executives. And so we'd have 1,000 or a couple thousand of us with us in our state or whatever that would go to an executive director banquet.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's incentives in that way, yeah. And easier to get on the Cancun trips and that kind of stuff. The requirements are a little less for executives.
I see.
No wonder he's fluffy. All they do is go to daggone restaurants and
Can you,
banquets.
and I know that the state showed you some of the instant message conversations you had with Ms. Arias between, well, not all of them, but some of which were between April, May of 2008 and June of 2008.
If this man can
And
get
that
me a
was one-
Kirby
that was
vacuum
one,
for cheap,
medium you use to communicate, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And you said you made phone calls as well.
Yeah,
You
usually at
talked about
night.
phone calls.
My business was really picking up at the time, so I
This
think
goes on for a while.
she was busy during the day and she knew I was busy during the day. So if I called her, she called me, it's usually around 11 p.m. at night when we were both kind of settling down.
Okay. Between this initial call you made at Zion's prompting.
Oh,
and,
he's all the way
your
up to
meeting
lunch.
on June
That
4th
poor guy.
Or 5th of
Yeah, I'm
2008.
confused.
Did you talk on a daily basis, a near daily
Probably.
basis? I'm sorry, I think I talked.
4
over
or 5 times a week. Could be more even. Text messages.
Let's play it to the next break of sorts or sidebar so we can save the excitement to David on Tuesday.
Just saw a few moments ago. When do those typically take
I
place
really
and
want him
how
to
often?
listen to more
I don't
MLM
think
stuff.
too often.
MLM on
Because usually we
MLS.
just call each other, we'd be texting. If we were both by a computer, when you're on Gmail, you can kind of see your contacts and who's actually online.
Okay.
And I think at one point she wrote, "Hi, this is a test." And then I was online and I responded back to her. And that's when we started kind of just talking that way.
All right. Tell us about these conversations and what were the subjects? You talked every day. What kind of things?
Getting to know each other, her likes and dislikes. She'd ask me that. She'd ask me a lot of questions like, what are your hobbies?
I have
What do you
that
like to do? What
song
do you
in
not
my
like to
head
do?
now. Getting to know
What books have you read? She'd ask me questions about, not too often, but
because I can just see them
dating
skipping
history,
in this man's
what that was
head.
like, how that
I don't
happened.
see.
Do I have trust issues? Does she have trust issues? We would talk about just whatever would come up.
Okay. You didn't have any conversations that could be characterized as phone sex?
Yeah, we probably did.
Okay. And when did those take place?
Of course you did. Of course.
Why? This poor man.
Sometime after she was there.
I can't do
Okay.
phone sex
But no, what I was
because
specifically saying
every
is
time
between
she puts it in,
the
I
time
can't
you
hear
met
her.
the time you met in April and the time you met in June, there's none of that. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
I give up. I give up. Humanity is lost.
And let me ask you just.
Voting
so
for
we're
Asteroid
clear,
2024.
because some of it came up.
And she
in
always have
April 2008
vibration on when I call. I don't know
and,
why.
June of 2008, between that period of time. Did you have any moral or religious qualms against premarital sex?
I mean,
She
ironically,
might
it was
have-
kind of, I hadn't
She
actually
might
attended
have
an
phone
LDS
sex.
church for probably
Just-
over a year.
I
at
don't
that time.
know about it.
And
I'm
she would
calling and calling
often tell
and
me how she
calling.
felt about, her religious beliefs, the Book of Mormon, how she felt. And I think that was kind
And
of
she
one of
sounds so
the
exhausted
big reasons
once she
why I
picks it
didn't
up.
want her to regret her trip when she came, because I
Give
certainly
up.
didn't want
I
her going
give
home
up.
feeling
He has the
like she regretted her
choose the
trip, or she
right
made a huge
ring. I
mistake, or that
just
she let
heard
temptation take over.
why.
And so, that was one of the things that kind of made me stop, when things were kind of getting a little heated between us. And so, yeah, it was more her expressing her religious beliefs and almost trying to bring me closer to God.
Okay, and you made that comment, I think, too. I
She
know you
lost
spoke to
some good
Detective
phones
Flores
that way.
On the phone.
Yes.
Yeah. And we spoke a year or so
You
back.
came
you
out to
recall
see
that? Yeah.
Hey, look, an
and
old
that's-
flip
you said
phone.
you said that very thing
Can you
during one of those
imagine the
conversations is
ER
she was
nurse
trying to
when
bring you
some
closer to
poor
God.
idiot kid
Mhm.
Right,
comes
and that was
in?
during those phone conversations. And to your understanding, was she a member of your, I guess, former church at that time?
Yeah, she was. She was what they would call a convert. She was baptized later on. She wasn't grown. I don't think she wasn't raised in the church.
But
Somebody.
She wasn't grown in
introduced her to it.
Sir, babies are not like dropped
Do you know
off
who that
and
someone
people
was?
are not
I've been
grown.
told it
I
was
think we
Travis.
need to have a
Okay, but
serious
she did
talk.
by her or did it for someone else, or just gossip?
No, I think she told. Yeah, she told me. She told me in one of our conversations.
Okay. And did she seek to get you reinvested in the church? Is that
A little bit. I mean, yeah, she'd mentioned reading my scriptures and.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I just.
A
And do you
woman
believe
that
she
is
was
wearing pigtails
any
and
reason to
getting
doubt her
tied up
sincerity in that?
to do the dirty is trying to get him to go to church? Ma'am.
During these conversations that you had, where you're talking about the scripture and your relationship with God, did she ever talk to you?
How do you
about
segue between phone sex
confiding
and
in you, I should say,
scripture?
that
I
I
just
know, I
can't.
was
sexual relationship with Mr.
Like,
Alexander?
and on that point,
about
when
that.
you were talking about
She
Jesus,
told me that she never wanted me to say anything to anybody because she didn't want to de-edify him in front of people that knew him, but that they did go a lot further than they should have. I don't know if I ever heard her say they had sex, but it seemed like that's what she was saying. I didn't want to ask the specific question because I didn't feel like it was my business. But yes, at one point,
does he know Nicole?
maybe I did ask
Or
her, and yeah, I
Dominique?
found out that
It's
they,
not my
that
business.
they had sex
She was
together.
married.
Okay. And, you know, you
Did
used the word
nobody
edify
ask
in
me
that,
if
you
I
know,
was
in the
married?
text, or excuse me, the instant message.
I just had to.
Now I really want one. I mean, not for that, but it's just hilarious. Okay, so quick story time, and the reason why my mom will never see any of these streams. Apparently, my mother is the only female in the entirety of America that didn't know what pure romance parties were. So she told her friends, like, yeah, I'll order something from you. And she opened the catalog at work and she said, Marissa, do you know what there is in there? And I was like, no. She's like, there are all sorts of stuff. And I was like, I have
own
never.
all of them, Mom.
It's like the Lefty Lucy one is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But she was just, I was like, Mom, how did you not know Pure Romance was? Where have you been?
I just love this like banter of like, oh, have a little phone sex and read some scripture. Like,
I know I don't understand what the point of this guy is other than she used him as a, sort of alibi for her. Like, she's like, I got really lost on the way to
Pull
see
my
you.
finger.
Unfortunate pause.
I want us to be on Law and Crime. We would be the best little group.
We would raise their numbers in like, we
Yeah.
do the SNL, like, was it the news thing where Norm Macdonald used to do things? We'd be the most highly rated part of Law and Cuck, although we'd have to stop saying cuck.
Mm.
That's my favorite. Pull my finger.
His beard is weird. Okay, the problem is that his neck is completely squished up, so his beard just has.
Well, his beard follows his jawline. The problem is we can't really see the jawline.
He looks like he's wearing a neck pillow.
Oh my gosh, the collar on that shirt has the tensile strength of like the stuff they use to keep the Golden Gate Bridge up. We need to figure out who makes that shirt because that's a lot of strain on some fabric.
How the hell did he get the top button buttoned?
That's why he has sister wives. One holds one side, one holds the other. I'm a terrible person. If anyone is Latter-day Saint, I only laugh because I love Sister Wives, the TLC train wreck show. Yes, and Rip Norm Macdonald, the funniest man.
Yeah.
Again, God, you took Norm Macdonald and Kevin Spacey is still here. I'm going to need you to explain some things.
And R.I.P. Chris Farley. We had to do that last night, so I'll throw that in there. I'll throw an R.I.P. to that too.
Okay, I swear to God, I'm going to put a picture up in Discord. I birthed either the human representation of Bobby Hill or Chris Farley reincarnated. My middle son, Gunnar, short little stout guy.
He looks like Bobby Hill.
He does look like Bobby Hill.
You better put a picture up now.
I will. But he's all muscular and tough, and I'm just like, aw. But his hair, I'll have to do it because for 1 year for Halloween, my youngest son Griffin is very tall and slender, and Gunnar is just built like a stack house. So do you guys remember the SNL where it was Patrick Swayze trying out for Chippendales and then Chris Farley? So I found 2 tuxedo shirts for them. That's what they were for Halloween. Because I'm a terrible mom.
No, you're not. You're the coolest mom.
All right, let's get back to this unfortunate trial.
A moment ago.
This is all David's fault.
That leads me to ask a question during these conversations, text messages, emails, whatever mode you use to communicate. Did she ever badmouth Travis? Did she ever edify him?
Besides the conversation about him,
why are we using
beating on her
edify
and him
and
being unfaithful
it's
and
weird language.
she felt
David
just not being
had prior
honest with her.
engagement and
No, in
something
fact,
with
I always
daughter
found it quite
and
surprising
graduation, I
that some of the
think.
people who, even after we found out,
it's
which I believe was 4 or 5
us
days after
3
Travis was
adults,
killed, we didn't know that for
Mr. Burns, if I
taking
could,
over.
let's just focus on that period of time, okay?
Yeah.
She never edified him before June 4th.
She never said bad things about him, really.
Okay.
I mean, besides that, when she said the trust issue. Besides that, everything was, he was a great guy. He inspired her. He was great. Everything.
This trust issue and this cell phone and this response to a text message from another girl, you recall talking to that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay. Do you know which girl she was referring to?
No idea.
Okay. Do you know the period of time that we're talking about when she found this out?
I was under the assumption it was a long time ago. I didn't know if it was 6 months ago or 2 years ago. I really didn't know. And again, I didn't try to pry too much in that relationship. I didn't feel like that was, it just didn't, I didn't know how long ago it was.
Okay, fair enough. Do you recall when they broke up? Or did she ever advise you of that, when she became
It seemed
single?
like a year ago. I was under the impression, I thought, but it could have been 2 years prior. I don't remember having that conversation about when timeline.
Okay. Do you know if it was the infidelity that motivated this breakup? 'Cause I kind of get that impression.
From everything.
Mr. Martinez, did you have an objection?
Alexander was begun faithful.
Since there were so many people talking at once, why don't you ask the question again?
You know what? That was we have to save this riveting testimony that goes on up to lunch to David on Tuesday. Now I will be here on Tuesday as well, because the negotiation that should have ended Friday is still ongoing and will keep going until tomorrow for me. It will end tomorrow, or somebody's getting shot. No,
you have no pew pew weapons.
No.
There was an unfortunate boating accident.
Where?
What?
Haven't you heard, like, oh, I lost all my firearms. I was on a boat and it collapsed. Okay, maybe it's just the circles there was an unfortunate boating accident and all your firearms happened to just go off.
Be on that boat. No. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen often here in Sweden. A gunboat related accident. No, not to my recollection. Well, let's see here. Tuesday, we will continue with this. David will be here. I will be here. Mo and Jamie will maybe be here or in the chat, and maybe we will be more adult on Tuesday. I doubt it. Tomorrow I will have the stream I should have had yesterday as a finally Friday work week ended. Will be tomorrow as a crap it's Sunday stream, and I will try to end the weekend with some fun stuff. And you can Mo. You need to grift a bit.
Yes. So Salvador and I will probably be starting a stream fairly soon. We are kind of floating around a couple ideas, so we might throw it to chat to see what you guys want to see, because the topics are pretty much are we going back to watch anything from Brooks? Are we going to talk about how Kat from the Chandler Halderson case is super duper guilty, allegedly? Or any other thing you want to watch? We can speed run the Scott with 1T Peterson trial. I have the notes for day 1 done, but we can do day 2 quickly. I will tell you that day 1 will have timestamps in, but it had some fairly horrifying audio. So yeah, I'm not really wanting to do more Brooks. We could do something else, but it's just sort of a crapshoot, and I'm going to be shamelessly grifting for money for a whiteboard that I found on Marketplace so I can do the red string thing shamelessly.
Oh my God.
Let's see here. Yeah, we do have lots of legal firearms in Sweden. We have the sport shooters and the hunters. And we are hunting people. That's just the way it is. But our government is currently trying to have our magazines limited for rifles down to no more than 4 rounds in the magazine, which is stupid. Because if you're out hunting moose or elk, that if you injure that thing and it comes at you, it won't stop until it's
Yeah, don't
riddled
piss
with
off a
bullets.
moose. Are you
No.
allowed to have dynamite? Just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
You can
And
fish
if you
with it.
are, yeah, and if you are up north, you are in bear country. And even though we don't have any grizzlies, we do have brown bears, and yeah, they are not too happy being shot at as well.
All right,
So
I
it's
posted
very stupid.
Bobby Hill / Chris Farley pictures in Not Halloween on David's Discord.
Yeah. So if you're a member, go to David's channel, member on David's channel, go to his member tab, and there's a link to the Discord. And there you can see very much interesting. I don't have a Discord. I'm mooching off David, and yeah. I simply don't have time for more than work, girlfriend, streaming stuff in that area.
I have found that streamers and YouTubers make it look very easy or effortless because they're really good at that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of behind the scenes, especially if you are trying to break things down or give people a roundup. It's like, what would I want to know? And then you kind of second guess yourself and take 13 pages of notes.
Yeah. And Jamie, for some reason, you don't have your own channel.
No, I just piggyback on everybody's stuff. That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
I just like to hang out.
Yeah.
I pretty much run Dave's Discord, so that's working.
Yes.
me and Jungmin.
Yep.
And
Okay.
Jungmin, I will learn K-pop sometime, and by the time they are done with their military service, you and I are going to do a tour. Just leave the children, leave the husband. We'll just K-pop tour.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yes.
I'm glad I got to spend my Saturday with.
No, we're not hunting people. We are hunting people. We are not hunting people.
Not currently, but
currently.
Russia better watch his step. I'm just saying.
Let's just say there's a very large amount of hunters, and we have written into our foundational law that in case we are under attack, every adult are supposed to fight. And if our government says, "Oh, we are surrendering," it's in the foundational law. If the government says it, they are lying, and we are supposed to go into guerrilla war. So yeah,
I'm moving to Sweden. You have sold. We revolt. The government is a lie.
Yeah, it's almost not entirely, but if you read between the lines, is don't trust the government. In case of war, or something like that.
True.
I just heard don't trust the government.
Yeah, that was like,
Okay. We have 40 seconds to 3 hours, so I will put up the what's it called? The trailer, so you can watch that again, so you can know there are pictures in it that will be in this trial. At some point. I am not exactly sure when they show up. So you better show up on every stream, because you never know when you get to see Jodie Arias nude. That's a pitch as good as any.
That's a tagline. Like nudes, maybe.
Maybe nudes this time or next time. And it might be just that time when you don't watch it. So watch it every time. Yeah. Well, thank you for gifting membership, Jamie and Wendy H. And thank you for the super chats to Diamonds and Henna Erin Hack and John Gordon. And I'll see you all, if not tomorrow on my Crap It's Sunday stream, I will see you on Tuesday. And yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
oh wait, I have to check first who I can send people off to. There. Bum, bum, bum. No, that. No, not that one. That one. Redirect. Let's see who's on. Nobody?
Well, I'm going to get ready to start a stream. I know that. So if you
Yeah,
guys
there.
want to
Church.
join.
Yeah. I put. I'm say Church Lady reacts to Tyler in the ex-NFL trial.
Oh, okay. I'll have to
So-
go to that one because I had a really bad pain day, so church lady stayed home. But we can change the doodad on it, and I know what I'm talking about. I'm all technical.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sending you over to Mo's stream. Church Lady. Ooh. Oh, sorry. Got distracted here.
Us distracted.
What? No. Well, so Mo will show up on her stream. I don't know when it
Yes.
starts. At
I
some
will.
point.
It'll be
and-
starting in the next couple minutes. I'm sending an invite to Salvador, and we are going to have chat's choice
You got,
about what we.
you got. She's all that here. Hairdo.
Well, hair gel or
Yeah.
with this trial, you never know.
No. Well, I'm sending you off with the trailer. Then you're off to Mo's. And thank you, Jamie and Mo, for showing up, for not letting me be alone all of the time.
No problem.
Because that was an improvement.
Sometimes it's hard to figure out if you're just talking to yourself or it's nice to have that kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah.
Okie dokie.
See ya.